Hold up. So I guess this is the stream now. Yep. Alright, so back to my intro. This menu, I think, has the canon ship. Let's see, let's find out. I'm excited. Let's pick up kind of where we left off. We're gonna skip some of this because I just read this 5 minutes ago before stream crashed because I didn't have the Ethernet plugged in. But this is just apparently Lottie practicing to dance with Jesse, except it wasn't really dance practice, and then Lavinia comes in and is mad because Jesse simps Sara now apparently, and Lavinia's like, you're a sycophant, you're a kiss ass. So just a lot of hate going on there, really. Dang, I got no walking stats this time. Alright, XYZ. So as I was trying to tell you earlier, I have continued my playthrough of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth today. I got the Chocobo Racing trophy, and I'm on the last 2 chapters, and there was a whole One Piece side quest, which was crazy. My dear Sara, how good it is to see you today. Ah, thank you. As you know, your birthday will be upon us in only 2 short weeks. Yes. I'm planning a grand celebration for you. We will decorate the entire schoolroom and have a little party with activities for all the students. Then you will open your gifts with great ceremony, and after they have been seen and admired, you will proceed to a glittering feast, where I will arrange some unusual treats. Dang, you found the One Piece in Final Fantasy? Yeah, bro, I found like one of those, what do you call those compassy things that only point in one, like to the one island or whatever? Like, there's 2 types of compasses in One Piece. I found a good one. Is there anything particular that you would like for your special day, Sara? Will my papa be there? What was that? Oh, I only hoped. He had written me that he would like to be present for my birthday, and I hoped that you might have had word. I'm sorry, if Captain Crew has made such plans, he has not informed me. I was told only to have your gifts made ready for you. Oh. Now, do not lose hope, my dear. Message travels slowly when the ocean is involved. It is always possible that ships are in motion even as we speak. What's going on, Click? Yeah, there's a log pose, and then I think the one that only points to a specific place is the eternal log pose, if I'm not mistaken. So I think I found an eternal log pose is what I got. And then it helps you find materials that you could use to level up, I guess, accessories and stuff. However, even if your father is unable to attend the festivities, I hope you will have a simply marvelous time and write to him all about it. Yes, Miss Minchin, thank you. Well, my dear, if you have no other special requests, then you may wish to return to your friends. There is another gentleman I need to speak with. Thank you, good day. Click, you missed Scriblio yesterday. Did you watch the VOD? It was a good 2 hours of Scriblio. It was fun and funny. Upon leaving Miss Minchin's office, Sara briefly crossed the path of a sharp-featured, dry little gentleman who wore a neatly tailored suit and eyeglasses. Good day. He nodded at her, quite as if he already knew her name and saw no need for the 2 of them to be introduced once again. Good day. Something about his manner seemed mildly unsettling to Sara, but as he soon vanished into Miss Minchin's office, never to be seen again, she quite forgot all about him. Out of sight, Miss Minchin greeted her visitor. Ah, Mr. Barrow. Here are the next set of bills for Miss Crew's observation. Wow. For Miss Crew's celebrations. I have it on authority that the Parisian doll is nearly complete and will be delivered next week. They're really going all out for that second doll. I broke my phone, so I couldn't use your iPad. Oh, dang, that stinks. Well, I'm sure you could join us to play next time. I hope you get to watch the VOD at least, though, because it was really funny. We got some of the funny moments are like permanent memes now, I think. Like Tridactyl, that's a good meme. XYZ yelling Colombia has a flag, what the F? That's a pretty good meme. The strange gentleman took the papers she handed him and regarded them with a sniff. Why is he sniffing papers? Click always missing out. The community games just to travel to Japan. Fags. You do not think this is a trifle extravagant for such a young girl's birthday? It is. Sounds extravagant, whatever it is. Captain Crew expected the very best for his daughter. I don't see how it is your place to judge. He ordered that your firm would pay all expenses, did he not? Yes, yes. You're very fond of the girl, then. She is my most important pupil. I see. Very well. I shall take these and add them to the receipts for disbursement when the next payments arrive. Good day to you, Miss Minchin. Okay, so we still can't hang out with Becky. We need more belief for Jessie. And in the meantime, we could do either a Mariette event or a Lottie event. I don't like the fact that we need belief for everybody, because that just means I'm going to be constantly needing to build that, and I don't think it builds as quickly as some other stats. I'll do a Lottie one, because it costs me a little bit less belief. And then see what happens next week. Sara was seated comfortably in the classroom, gazing at the window and thinking. Oh no, not the Columbia has a flag. LOL, Tridactyl is good. Same with Scarter. Yeah, Scarter I'm probably gonna forget. You'll remind me though. It was not that the seat itself was so comfortable. The long form benches of the schoolroom were chosen for function and ease of use, not for gently cushioning the tender bottoms of schoolgirls. Did it just say tender bottoms of schoolgirls? That sounds pretty lewd, bro. That's some Wan-Hee shit right there. Sara's own cozy little parlor contained far more comfortable places to sit than the classroom or even the dining room at Miss Minchin's. However, sometimes a change of scenery was more conducive to clear thinking. There was something interesting about being in a classroom when all the other students had gone. Is this still a classroom if there is no class inside it? Yes. Yes, it is. That's like saying, is a bedroom still a bedroom if there is no bed inside of it? Yes, it is, because that's its intended purpose. And yet, it was not long before someone else did enter the room. Someone who stood at the corner of Sara's vision, unwilling to speak and interrupt, but nearly bouncing on her toes from excitement. Lottie? After looking outside and letting her mind wander for so long, Sara's eyes seemed to view everything in the wrong colors, and Lottie's round face was overlaid with pinks and greens. She blinked a few times to clear her vision. Lottie clapped her hands together, taking this as permission to speak. May we go and see the doll, Emily, now? And have tea? Alright. Sara led the way upstairs, motioning Lottie behind her to stay quiet. Tridactyl is good. Tridactyl is good because it's like you're imagining this flying dinosaur with 3 wings, right? And you're wondering whether the 3rd wing is gonna like make it fly off balance. Like, how does it hinder its flight? I doubt it improves its flight. We must be careful not to disturb her. Disturb who? If we're very lucky, you might see. The door to Sara's room stood out in front of them. Sara placed a finger over her own lips and then to Lottie's. Only after Lottie nodded did she reach for the door. Then Sara suddenly turned the handle and threw it wide open. Its opening revealed the room quite neat and quiet, a fire gently burning in the grate, and a wonderful doll sitting in a chair by it, apparently reading a book. I mean, you didn't have to talk. I think Sam drew with us and Sam didn't talk. Azure drew with us and she didn't talk. But me, Wolf, XYZ, and Cassie were talking. Which is good, because all of them had like really positive energy, some laughs and all that. That's a good group. Oh, she got back to her seat before we could see her. Of course, they always do. They are as quick as lightning. Lottie looked from Sara to the doll and back again. Can she walk? Azure never talking? This is Azure secretly a middle-aged man, my dude. Yes, at least I believe she can. I believe dolls can do things they will not let us know about. Perhaps really Emily can read and talk and walk, but she will only do it when people are out of the room. That is her secret. You see, if people knew that dolls could do things, they would make them work. So perhaps they have promised each other to keep it a secret. If you stay in the room, Emily will just sit there and stare. But if you go out, she'll begin to read, perhaps, or go and look out of the window. Then if she heard either of us coming, she would just run back and jump into her chair and pretend she had been there all the time. Yes, dolls read. That is their hobby of choice. None of us watch the stream while playing. Click, that would be cheating. That's tracks. You can't watch the stream while playing. I mean, you can lurk, you just can't watch. Lottie's eyes were magnified enormously as she took in this bewitching new concept. It was a delightful thought. However, Lottie was one of the youngest students at Miss Minchin's seminary, and as such, had experience in being told things by older girls that might not be entirely true. Sara, does she really walk? Do you truly believe it? I pretend that I believe she can, and that makes it seem as if it were true. So it's not true. When you suppose things, when you pretend them with great vigor, that makes them almost real. If you imagine for yourself that there are fairies in the London sky, if you stare up into the sky thinking about fairies, and looking very hard for them, you might almost catch a glimpse of one. And you're not sure what you saw. Was it real or wasn't it? Were you pretending? Was it a dream or a vision? Did you actually see anything at all? Yo, dude, I think Sara is on some gummies, my dude. And the way she's literally looking up as she says it, like she's picturing the fairies in the ceiling of the bedroom right now as they speak, that says something about her, bro. You know that you're pretending, so it is not so terrible if you didn't see anything. But maybe, just maybe, you were right all along. Sometimes stories do come true. Do you understand? I think so. Would you like to hold Emily? Oh, may I really? She's beautiful. And Emily was put into her arms. XYZ struggled on a few words. What do you mean, to draw them or to guess them? It wasn't even on GU's drawings though. I know, wasn't it Azure? Is it just me or did Azure have like the most difficult either concepts or just drawings to figure out, period? Lottie smiled down at the doll, cradling her gently and figuring her fair curls. See, for me, I try to pick one that people can figure out, because if you guys can figure it out, then that helps me get points as the artist. But if nobody can figure out what you drew, then you don't get points. So you have to, it's like if you sabotage everyone else, you sabotage yourself. And if you help everyone else, you help yourself. Azure did terrible drawings. Facts, bro. I wonder what she was drawing on. And then she kept like lagging out too. Lottie smiled down at the doll, cradling her gently and fingering her fair curls. They must move very fast to get out of sight when we come in, mustn't they? I wonder if we could learn to move like lightning. Oh, we couldn't do it. You see, it's a kind of magic. Maybe people can have magic too. That is nice to pretend. But whether we can have magic or not, we can certainly have tea. New week. Sara was playing hostess to Jessie at a tea party in her rooms, but upon this occasion, Jessie's interest seemed more drawn to Sara's French maid. Truly, the corset is no longer at the height of fashion. Not in Paris, mademoiselle. It is quite good enough en province. In London, the curved back and large bosom still dominates, but Paris must always be at the front of things, you see. Isn't it a lovely idea, Sara, to be free to move and breathe, to have a small chest, and to still be beautiful? Dang, bro, life goals, huh? If it is beautiful in Paris, then it must be beautiful elsewhere, even if people don't see it that way. The fashions of Paris are emulated all around the world, but it does take time. Marie Antoinette devised the fashion of shepherdesses, something like that. Shepherdesses? I don't know. Didn't she? It was not quite so, mademoiselle. As I have heard, the queen grew tired of the stiff brocade and jewels of court dress, and wished something more light and simple. She designed gowns of soft, thin muslin, with much gathering and ruffle. Gowns that could be both beautiful and comfortable. That design in its own way may have led to many of the dresses young ladies, such as yourselves, wear now. Paris before all. I thought that the queen wasn't very popular in France anymore. There are many who hate the royalty of the past and all that they represent, and others who still hope that the Sun King will come again. Nika, the Sun God. I can't draw to save my life, Click says. I've always hated drawing, don't know why. I mean, to be fair, my drawings are not the most advanced, but I'm still the art god. It's all about being confident to make the attempt and having confidence in the result, even if it's not perfection. Perhaps the crown will be restored one day. I do not know. It is not for my hands to decide. As for Marie Antoinette, some mock her memory, but I have always had my own sympathy. I believe I was named in her honor. Oh, how charming. As conversation turned from Marie Antoinette to the Celtics' origins of Jesse's own name, Sarah's mind wandered into recollections of a book she had read recently. It was not entirely unrelated, for it had been a book about the French Revolution. Specifically, the prisoners of the Bastille, men who had spent so many years in dungeons that when they were dragged out by their rescuers, their long gray hair and beards covered their faces. After so many years trapped underground, they had forgotten that the outside world existed at all, and to them, walking into freedom was not so much waking from a dream as entering into one. To doubt the sun, to forget that there was such a thing as stars, those poor souls. And yet, over time, they must have learned to believe in their new world. England was very strange to me after living in India, but now it seems as real, or even more so, than my memories. Sarah? Oh, please excuse me. My thoughts began to run away on their own. A pity that they can't carry us with them. Oh, Jesus, what? Okay, so I know I need a crap ton of belief. I think belief is the crucifixes. So that's what I'm gonna go for. It seems like if I write in diary a lot, I'll get belief. So far I'm getting patience, a little bit of belief, a little bit more belief, double belief, and another one. Thank God. Miss, best girl. Oh. Sara was startled when Becky caught her arm in the hallway one day. The scullery maid was usually too timid to be so insistent. If Sara did not call out to her, Becky would more often pass by unnoticed. What is it, Becky? Oh, miss, I heard... Is it your birthday soon, miss? Yes, it's next week. That's what I thought I heard, miss, but I weren't sure. When is your birthday, Becky? Don't know, miss. Never had one. But you must have a birthday. Everyone does. You were born. I don't rightly remember that part, miss. I mean, nobody would. But if you don't know when you were born, how old are you? Not so sure of that either, miss. The workhouse reckon that we're past 14 and old enough for service? Oh, God. They shouldn't be reckoning nothing, bro. She doesn't look over 14. Mariette said she thought Becky was older than she appeared. Poor Becky to have never had a birthday. Well then, if you have no birthday of your own, you shall share in mine. Miss? Miss Minchin asked if there was anything I wanted for my party. I want my papa to be there, but she can't fix that for me. But she can let you come to my party, and I'm sure she will if I ask her to. Oh, miss, are you sure? Of course I'm sure. Every little girl deserves birthday parties. Maybe you're older or maybe you're not, but you're still a little girl. Becky made a small noise, like a laugh, half swallowed and tucked away. Oh, I've got to Scarper now, miss, but I hope you're right. Scarper? That almost sounds like XYZ's favorite word, Scarter. Alright guys, let's have some more Becky time. When Sara went into her sitting room in the afternoon, she found on the table a small dumpy package tied up in a piece of brown paper. A birthday present. And I think I know whom it came from. She unwrapped the paper quite tenderly. Inside there was a square pincushion made out of not quite clean red flannel. I like how the birthday gift is dirty cushions. Black pins had been stuck carefully into the surface to form the words, "Many happy returns." The sight and the thought of the pains Becky must have taken to put it all together gave Sara a warm feeling in her heart. I like it so much that it makes me feel sorrowful. What? But the next moment she was mystified. On the underside of the pincushion was secured a card, bearing in neat letters the name Miss Maria Minchin. She turned the card over in her hands in case some message were written on the underside, but there was nothing. Miss Minchin, how can it be? And just at that very moment, she heard the door being cautiously pushed open. Becky peeped around the door, then grinned and shuffled forward, pulling at her fingers. Do you like it, Miss Sara? Do you? Like it? You darling. You made this all yourself. Becky gave a hysteric but joyful sniff, and her eyes looked quite moist with delight. Can't do fancy stitching like Mariette, and it ain't nothing but flannel, and the flannel ain't new. But I wanted to get you something, so I worked on it at nights. I knew you could pretend it was satin with diamond pins in it. I tried to when I was making it. Oh yes, a blue satin cushion and pink diamonds, the rarest and most precious of all. Something Becky made with her own hands in her spare time when she has so little is already more precious than diamonds. But why does it have Miss Minchin's card on it? It weren't wrong of me to pick it up out of the dustbin, was it? Miss Minchin had thrown it away. I hadn't got a card of my own, and I knew it wouldn't be a proper present if I didn't pin a card on, so I pinned Miss Minchin's. This is so ghetto but wonderful at the same time. Sara flew at her and hugged her. She could not have told herself or anyone else why there was a lump in her throat. I know why. It's because you're turning lesbian, bro. This is the flames of passion being ignited. Oh, Becky, I love you. Becky, I do. Oh my god, this is so romantic. I love you, I do. Twice the I do. Oh, miss. Thank you, miss, kindly. But it ain't good enough for that. The flannel weren't new. Sara laughed into Becky's neck. Ooh, into her neck. A queer little laugh that sounded almost as much like tears as it did like joy. You are far too sweet. She pulled back, looking into Becky's dear face. I wish I were the fairy godmother who could bring you a magical dress and turn you into the princess you deserve to be. Me? Of course, you're the kind and ill-treated heroine who works hard every day without any thanks. In any proper story, you ought to turn out to be the lost daughter of a king. Don't think my mom's ever seen a king, miss. It doesn't have to be that way. A fairy tale baby might be sent down the river on a tiny boat to safety, or discovered curled up inside a walnut shell. Hello, Azure. What's going on? Azure, I hear you cheated in Scriblio, or whatever it's called. Facts. Don't think I'd ever fit in a walnut shell either. Sara giggled. Well, however you were born and wherever you came from, I'm very glad that you're here now with me. That's it? We got the trophy for Becky's events? I feel like she had like only 3 events. Well, whatever. Mademoiselle, you must hold still so that I can see the new dress on you correctly. Oh, dang. She's like a whole magical girl now. I'm sorry, Mariette. I heard a horse's hooves and the sound of wheels, and then they slowed, and I thought perhaps it was a carriage come to call, a carriage with my papa. Mademoiselle, hanging your head will not make your papa come any faster. Nor will it help me adjust your dress for the party. Is it wrong to keep hoping, Mariette? I know he never sent word that he could come, but he never sent a letter to say that he absolutely couldn't either. I do not think that I can answer that, mademoiselle. Hope is something very personal. Then, I think I will. It'll be sad if my birthday comes and my papa is not here, but if I give up hope, then I would be sad now. I think it will be easier to be a little sad then, while I am having a nice party with my friends, than to be sad now. I am sorry. I didn't mean to make it more difficult for you to finish my dress. Sara raised her head and spread out her arms like a little doll. If my papa is to see this, then it must be lovely, and if my papa will not be there, then it should be just as nice to keep up our spirits. Isn't that right, Emily? Mariette laughed to herself, but would not say why. Okay, I know we still need a lot of belief for the other girls' events, so let's just keep doing right in the diary. Alrighty, we are good to go. It was at last the day of Sara's birthday party. There had been no further word from her papa, but at this moment Sara was too carried away with anticipation to feel disappointment. Oh, Miss Minchin, may I not go into the classroom yet? Everyone was already there waiting. Not until the preparations are complete, my dear. This is not an ordinary occasion. I do not desire that it should be treated as one. And so she was required to wait in the hall, breathless and fidgeting, until Cook emerged from the classroom. Jiu, what have you had to eat today? How many sleep hours? I slept for 10 hours from 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. And for breakfast, I had cornflakes. But they were cornflakes from Whole Foods, so they're organic. And I think they're just overall healthier than the regular ones. And then for lunch, I had a very big chicken sandwich, because it had 2 chicken breast patties. And what did I have with that? Just some apple cider. And then for dinner, I had because I realized I hadn't had like any like eggs this weekend, and I like having scrambled eggs. So I was like, screw it, I'll have that for dinner. So I had a bacon and egg sandwich with chocolate cake. Yep. And then what did I eat yesterday? Yesterday I had a smoothie in the morning. It was blueberry banana, like always. And then I think I had a turkey burger for lunch. And then for dinner I had mashed potatoes and pork chops. Yep. And so she was required to wait in the hall, breathless and fidgeting, until Cook emerged from the classroom. What about you, Click? What have you been eating? Everything's ready, Mum. Very well. Take my hand, Sara, and let us enter. Sara entered the holly-hung schoolroom as the head of a sort of procession. First there was Miss Minchin in a grand silk dress, and Sara herself guided by her hand. A manservant followed, carrying the box containing the last doll. Cook carried a second box, and Becky brought up the rear, carrying a third box and wearing a clean apron and a new cap. Alright guys, you want to make some predictions? I feel like since Lavinia has been in such a bad mood lately and absolutely hates Sara, I feel like she's going to try to break the last doll. I've felt this way ever since they first mentioned the last doll. I was like, oh my god, such a precious item. Lavinia's definitely going to try to destroy it. But let's see what happens. You haven't been hungry. I mean, you should still eat even if you're not hungry. All the students in their seats stared at this little parade, the older girls touching each other's elbows and nodding, the youngest squirming with excitement. Faced with so many eyes, Sara felt herself unaccountably shy. Not since her first introduction as Miss Minchin's select seminary had she been quite so much to the center of all attention. Silence, young ladies. The room itself was not quite transformed, but certainly made far more festive. The desks had been pushed away, and the long-form benches covered over with red cloth. A larger table had been set in pride of place, its surface scattered with flower petals. It was here that Miss Minchin directed her entourage. James, place that box upon the table and remove the lid. Emma, put yours upon a chair. Who is Emma? Becky. Becky had quite forgotten herself in her excitement and was exchanging grins with Lottie when that disapproving voice nearly startled her into dropping her box. Yes, ma'am. She bobbed a shaky little curtsy of apology, but with the box still in her arms, the positioning was quite awkward. Both tittered at once and then looked at each other in startlement for falling so easily into their lost rapport. It's not your place to look at the young ladies. You forget yourself. Put your box down. Yes'm. You may leave us. She waved her hand and the servants began to walk away. If you please, Miss Minchin, mayn't Becky stay? Becky! I want her because I know she would like to see the presents. She's a little girl too, you know. Miss Minchin was scandalized. She glanced from one figure to the other. My dear Sara, Becky is the scullery maid. Scullery maids are not little girls. But Becky is, and I know she would enjoy herself. Please let her stay, because it is my birthday. Miss Minchin took a slow breath and replied with much dignity. As you ask, it is as a birthday favor. She may stay. Rebecca, thank Miss Sara for her great kindness. Yo, bro, this is the first time I've heard anyone call Becky by her full name. Becky had been backing into the corner, twisting the hem of her apron in delighted suspense. She came forward, bobbing curtsies, but out of Miss Minchin's sight, she passed a friendly wink to Sara. Oh, if you please, miss, I'm that grateful, miss. I did want to see the doll, miss, that I did. Thank you, miss, and thank you, ma'am, for the liberty. Go and stand there, not too near the young ladies. Becky went to her place, grinning. She did not even mind when a Miss Minchin cleared her throat ominously and spoke again. Now, young ladies, I have a few words to say to you. She's going to make a speech. I wish it was over. You are aware, young ladies, that today is dear Sara's birthday. Dear Sara. Sara's birthdays are rather different from other little girls' birthdays. Why would they be different? When she is older, she'll be heiress to a large fortune, which it will be her duty to spend in a meritorious manner. I thought they were all rich. I'm in mines. Why is she stuttering so much? When her dear papa, Captain Crew, brought her from India and gave her into my care, he said to me in a jesting way, I'm afraid she will be a very rich Miss Minchin. I'm afraid she will be very rich, Miss Minchin. I'm like, what the heck? My reply was, her education at my seminary, Captain Crew, shall be such as will adorn the largest fortune. I wish she would stop. Saying these things makes me feel hot all over, and everyone is staring. Sara has become my most accomplished pupil. Her French and her dancing are a credit to the seminary. Her manners, which have caused you to call her Princess Sara, are perfect. Her amiability she exhibits by giving you this afternoon's party. I hope you appreciate her generosity. I wish you to express your appreciation of it by saying aloud altogether, thank you, Sara. The entire schoolroom rose to its feet and chorused Miss Minchin's words. Lottie even jumped up and down. Sara looked rather shy for a moment, then made a very nice curtsy. Thank you for coming to my party. Very pretty indeed, Sara. That is what a real princess does when the populace applauds her. Lavinia, the sound you just made was extremely like a snort. If you are jealous of your fellow pupil, I beg you will express your feelings in some more ladylike manner. Now, I will leave you to enjoy yourselves. I don't think she should leave, bro. I think she should chaperone, because Lavinia is probably going to do something crazy. The instant she had swept out of the room, the web-like aura that held the girls down dissipated, and they rushed from their seats in a babble of excitement. It was the boxes that drew the most attention. Sara was bent over one. There are books, I know. Does your papa send you books for a birthday present? Why, he's as bad as mine. I like them. The books aren't exciting. I want to see the doll. For everyone present, through whispered rumors, had come to know that a quite magnificent doll was due to appear. Even so, when Sara finally produced the last doll from her box, a number of the girls were struck speechless. It did not seem possible that she could be a doll. She looked only a bit smaller than the youngest students, as if a beautiful child had lain asleep in that box. She's dressed for the theater. Look, her cloak is lined with ermine. Oh, she has an opera glass in her hand, a blue and gold one. Sara drew out the doll's trunk and the little golden key which unlocked it. Inside were tray after tray of delightful things. Nico, you gonna have another Mario Kart tournament? Possibly. I think I do have the Nintendo Online. I think I have that until like October-ish. So I should take advantage of it. The only thing is, like, when we first had a Mario Kart tournament, I think there were like 12 people. And then, like, after that, we've only had like 5 people. Not a lot of people participate. Because if we always had 12, I would do it more often. But it feels like a lot of people don't participate anymore. It feels like it's hard to get people who have a Switch, have Mario Kart, and have online. I know Sara would probably participate again. Maybe Mr. Winter if we're lucky. It sounds like you want to participate. Ebel might participate if we're lucky. Holy Ears, me. Like, I feel like we could get 6 people. Mallet and Nep used to participate. I don't know if they would participate again. A lot of the people who used to participate, some of them have left the Discord. Time zones are different and crazy. It's definitely not an easy tournament to organize. You're gonna do the last one, but you fell asleep because of Japan? Oh, dang. I'll try to do another one soon. We'll see. And by soon, I mean like maybe late June or sometime in July. There were lace collars and silk stockings and handkerchiefs. There was a jewel case containing a necklace and a tiara, which looked quite as if they were made of real diamonds. Sara picked up a black velvet hat to perch on the last doll's curls. Suppose she understands human talk and feels proud of being admired. You're always supposing things. Her air was very superior, and yet the words were less vicious than Lavinia's outbursts in the past weeks had been. Perhaps the aura of celebration had brought even Lavinia some happiness. There's nothing so nice as supposing. It's almost like being a fairy. If you suppose anything hard enough, it seems as if it were real. At that moment the door opened. Ladies. Cook drew herself up as if attempting to speak in Miss Minchin's dry tones, but the effect did not quite become her. Miss Minchin has a meeting, so she said you should all have your refreshments now. Refreshments! Becky, who had seen the preparations ahead of time, could not help blurting out. Tell him what you got. Cook shook a heavy hand in Becky's direction, and the scullery girl closed her mouth and ducked away. Special treat from overseas, all the way from America. It's some kind of beans and spiced tomato sauce, and they put it in cans. What? That does not sound good. Literally just having regular old Goya for dinner. How quaint. How's that quaint? It's canned beans. In her office, Miss Minchin was meeting with a familiar visitor. Good day, Mr. Barrow. Have you come to see the goods? I can assure you the doll is just as expected. £100, all expensive material, and made at a Parisian modistes. He spent money lavishly enough, that young man. Captain Crew is a man of fortune. The diamond mines alone. Diamond mines? There are no such things. Never were. Miss Minchin stood up from her chair in confusion. What? What do you mean? At any rate, it would have been much better if there never were any. Any diamond mines? I don't understand. Diamond mines spell ruin oftener than they spell wealth. When a man is in the hands of a very dear friend and is not a businessman himself, he had better steer clear of the dear friend's diamond mines, or gold mines, or any other kind of mines dear friends want his money to be put into. The late Captain Crew. You don't come to tell me that Captain Crew is... He's dead, ma'am. Died of a jungle fever and business troubles combined. The jungle fever might not have killed him if he had not been driven mad by the business troubles. And the troubles might not have put an end to him if the fever had not assisted. Captain Crew is dead. Miss Minchin dropped into her chair again. What? What were his business troubles? Diamond mines, and dear friends, and ruin. Ruin? The young man had too much money and spent too freely. The dear friend was mad on the subject of the diamond mine. He put all his money into it. Then the dear friend ran away. Captain Crew was already stricken with fever when the news came. The shock was too much for him. He died delirious, raving about his little girl, and left her not a penny. He left nothing? Do you mean to tell me that the child is a beggar? That she is left on my hands a little pauper instead of an heiress? She is certainly left a beggar. And she is certainly left on your hands, ma'am, as she hasn't a relation in the world that we know of. She is sitting in my rooms at this very moment, dressed in silk gauze and lace petticoats, giving a party at my expense. She's certainly giving it at your expense, madam, if she's giving it. I was always so sure of his payments that I went to all sorts of ridiculous expenses for the child. Her maid, her carriage. I paid the bills for that ridiculous doll and her ridiculous fantastic wardrobe. I sent you the receipts. Barrow and Skipworth are not responsible for anything. There never was a cleaner sweep made of a man's fortune. Captain Crew died without paying our last bill, and it was a big one. Now Miss Minchin understood, and never had she received such a blow in her life. She felt as if she had been outraged and robbed, and that Captain Crew and Sara and Mr. Barrow were equally to blame. Her show pupil, her prize patron, her income, all had been snatched away. Instead, she was burdened with an extravagantly brought-up child, one who had cost her a great deal and might continue to cost her even more. But what am I to do? What am I to do? There isn't anything to do. Captain Crew is dead, the child is left a pauper, nobody is responsible for her but you. I am not responsible for her, and I refuse to be made responsible. If you think she is to be foisted off on me, you are greatly mistaken. I have been robbed and cheated. I will turn her into the street. Mr. Barrow turned and moved toward the door, showing no concern. I wouldn't do that, madam. It wouldn't look well. Reflects poorly on the establishment. Pupil bundled out penniless and without friends. Other parents might object. You and I are people of business, madam. We can be sensible about these matters. Better to keep her and make use of her. She's a clever child, I believe. You can get a good deal out of her as she grows older. I will get a good deal out of her before she grows older. I am sure you will, madam. I am sure you will. He gave a little sinister smile and departed. For moments, Maria Minchin was incapable of doing anything but standing and staring at the closed door. During the past months, the story of the diamond mines had suggested all sorts of possibilities to her. Even proprietors of seminaries might make fortunes in stocks, with the aid of owners of mines. You don't want to go to school, Click? I get you, man. At least it's only 4 days. That's how I'm looking at it. Because I'm off Saturday and Sunday. Next week, this coming weekend. And now, instead of looking forward to gains, she was left to look back upon losses. Such money as she herself had advanced was lost and could not be regained. Instead of a jewel of a pupil, she had only a friendless, beggared little girl. The Princess Sara indeed, the child has been pampered as if she were a queen. She did not realize at first that she had spoken aloud, and then scowled at her own loss of control. What was lost could not be recovered, but she would see to it that she lost nothing more. You wanted to see me, Miss Minchin? The older woman ignored Sara's presence completely, turning her gaze to the young Frenchwoman who served as Sara's maid. Mariette, has the girl a black frock in her sumptuous wardrobe? A black frock, madam? She has frocks of every other color. Has she a black one? Mariette's face stiffened as the awful suspicion grew. Yes, but it is too short for her. She has only the old black velvet, and she has outgrown it. Miss Minchin, what has happened? You do not speak until you are spoken to. Bring the black dress out at once. Whether it is too short or not, she is done with finery. Yes, madam. Sara did not speak. She could not. Her entire body was frozen in place. Her eyes seemed to get bigger and bigger, and she went quite pale. Captain Crew is dead. He has died without a penny. This spoiled, pampered, fanciful child is left a pauper on my hands. You, Sara, take off that preposterous gauze, change into the black dress, and meet me in my office. And you, Mariette, you were employed on the authority of Captain Crew, and your wages were his responsibility, not mine. As he has left us with nothing, there is nothing left for you. Your employment is hereby terminated. Remove yourself from this establishment at once. Dang! I guess that means we won't get to finish Mariette's friend events. Mariette walked heavily down the stairs. A bevy of frightened, confused faces looked up at her. The students of the party which had been so suddenly called to a halt. Oh, Mariette, what's happened? Hors demonstramen. What? I don't understand. Sara's papa is dead. She has nothing. I have nothing. What? Nothing? It is all over. I am leaving. I like how Mariette is just angrily leaving. And she's not even... She doesn't even seem concerned about Sara. Like, this girl was practically a daughter to you, I would have thought. Like, a little sister, at least. And you're just like, F it, I'm not getting any money, I'm out. And this poor girl's gonna be like a freaking beggar now. And it's like, yo, her dad tried to look after you. She treated you well. You ain't getting the money, sure, but this is somebody who always treated you with respect, man. I don't know, man. Seems kind of effed up to me. Nobody got her back yet. The girls who remained were too shocked to prevent Mariette's angry exit. Sara, mama. I can't believe it. There must be a mistake. I will speak to Miss Minchin at once. Lavinia? Get out of my way, you clod. Lavinia shoved the other girl aside. Ermengarde could not find the will to resist her. It was all too terrible and too certainly true. What will happen now? Will Miss Minchin make her leave too? Becky's legs would no longer hold her. She fell into a heap on the floor, her kerchief sliding loose, and sobbed as if her heart would break. It's exactly like the ones in the stories. Them poor princess ones that was drove into the world. Is this like a bad ending? Like an early ending to the visual novel? Oh god, look at how lifeless her eyes are. I mean, her dad is dead. And that was like her whole world, so... Makes sense. Click is tired of class with switching classes in last year. Never liked the new class. What do you mean new class? That almost makes it sound like you're in a new school or something. Yeah, she did die inside. When Sara Crew came into Miss Minchin's office an hour later, her face was white and her eyes had dark rings around them. She did not look in the least like the rose-colored butterfly child who had flown from one treasure to another in the decorated schoolroom. Without Mariette's aid, she had put on the cast-aside black velvet frock. It was too short and tight, making her legs look drawn out and spindle-thin where they showed beneath the skirt. She clutched Emily tightly in one arm, the doll's face covered by a scrap of discarded black lace for a mourning veil. Put that doll down. What do you mean by bringing it here? It should have been left in the room, along with all the other things that are no longer yours. She is all I have. My papa gave her to me before I came to school. I will not put her down. You will have no time for dolls in the future. Everything will be different now. Do you quite understand matters? Yes, my papa is dead. He left me no money. I am quite poor. You are a beggar. It appears that you have no relations and no home, and no one to take care of you. What are you staring at? Are you so stupid that you cannot understand? I tell you that you are quite alone in the world unless I choose to keep you here out of charity. I understand. That ridiculous French doll and all her nonsensical, extravagant things, I actually paid the bill for her. The last doll. Jesus. Last doll indeed, and she is mine, not yours. Everything you own is mine. Please, take it away from me then. I do not want it. Don't put on airs with me. You are not a princess any longer. You will keep only your oldest and plainest clothes, and the rest will be sold. You are like Becky. You must work for your living. What? What can I do? You can do anything you are told. If you make yourself useful, I may let you stay here. You will run errands and help in the kitchen as well as in the schoolroom. If you don't please me, you will be sent away. Remember that. I won't forget. Come with me. Miss Minchin led Sara along the hall past her own beautiful, comfortable rooms, stopping at a narrow staircase leading upwards. Your rooms will be given to another boarder. You are to sleep in the attic next to Becky. Sara stood still, just a moment looking at her. Without a word, she turned to the stairs. Stop. Don't you intend to thank me? What for? Dang! What for is absolutely right. You're gonna be living in the attic with rats. Why should you be thankful? For my kindness to you, my kindness in giving you a home. Sara made 2 or 3 steps toward her. Her thin little chest heaved up and down. You are not kind. You are not kind, and it is not a home. Before Miss Minchin could stop her, she turned and ran up the narrow stairs. You know what? The attic actually don't look that bad. I thought it wouldn't even have a bed, but it has a bed. It has a chair. I don't see the rats. It actually doesn't look dirty. I mean, the walls look kind of dirty, but the floor looks fine. 3 classes every year because I used to be in switch class for some reason. Everyone got classes, new class, don't like mine. 3 classes a year? Aren't you supposed to have like 4? Like a language class, science, math, and like history? At least, if not more. That sounds interesting. Like out here, people usually have like 8 periods or 9 periods. But some of those periods are like lunch, PE. But you still have like at least 6 classes, I think, out here. The room had a slanting roof. It was whitewashed, but the whitewash was dingy and had fallen off in places. There was a rusty grate, an old iron bedstead, and a hard bed covered with a faded coverlet. Some pieces of furniture, too worn to be used downstairs, were stored here, out of sight. Under the dull illumination from the skylight in the roof, there stood an old battered red footstool. Sara went to it and sat down. She seldom cried. She did not cry now. She laid Emily across her knees and stared at her impassive doll face. I wish she could talk, if she could speak. But Emily did not make a sound, and neither did Sara. Sara sat in silence for some time, until there came a low tap on the door, such a low, humble one that she did not even hear it. Her attention was not roused until the door was timidly pushed aside and a poor, tear-smeared face peeped around it. "Oh, miss. Would you allow me just to come in?" Sara lifted her head and looked at her. She tried to begin a smile, and somehow she could not. Faced with the loving mournfulness of Becky's streaming eyes, her own at last began to water. "Oh, Becky." She held out her hand. Becky ran to her, clasping it tightly. "I told you, didn't I, that we were just the same? Just 2 little girls? You see how true it is? There's no difference between us now. I'm not a princess anymore." Becky knelt beside her, hugging Sara's hand to her chest. "Yes, miss, you are. Whatever happens to you whatsoever, you'd be a princess all the same. And nothing couldn't make you nothing different." Dang, bro. Becky's like the real one. We have 3 different classes with 1 or 2 teachers for each class teaching every subject. Your teachers teach every subject? And you're saying, when you say 3 classes, you mean like 3 groups of students then? That's interesting. So, out here, because you're in high school, right? I think you're like in early high school, like 1st year. So out here, each subject would be taught by a different teacher for high school. And also for middle school. And then... yeah, so you would have like 5 teachers, maybe 6 teachers. And then you have a lot of groups of students. You would have like maybe in high school, depending on the school, you could have up to like 20 groups of students. It's crazy. Like they could be like up to like 300 freshmen, maybe 400. It's a lot. That first night she spent in her attic was a thing Sara never forgot. During its passing, she lived through a wild, unchildlike woe of which she never spoke to anyone. There was no one who would have understood. "My papa is dead." It was perhaps for the best that as she lay there, her mind was forcibly distracted from its anguish by the strangeness of her surroundings and the physical discomfort of the hard bed beneath her. "My papa is dead." She turned over and over again in search of rest, while all around her pressed a darkness more intense than any she had ever known, and the wind howled among the chimneys like a living thing. Some noises were worse than the wind. There were scufflings and scratchings and squeakings in the walls and behind the skirting boards. Sara knew what they meant because Becky had described them. Rats. Once or twice she even heard sharp-toed feet scurrying across the floor in her attic room, and startled up from her bed. But there was nowhere for her to go, and nothing for her to do but lay her small form down again and cover her head with the bedclothes. Sleep, what she had of it, came only in those moments where exhaustion overwhelmed confusion and despair. Sara could sleep only a few minutes at a time before her awareness forcibly resurfaced. "Papa," About 24 students every class with 1 to 2 main teachers. And some extra to help those teachers teach their class mainly. Dang. In the morning, her already pale face had been haggarded by the night of torment. She passed through the hallway where the students slept. The door to her rooms stood slightly ajar, enough for Sara to see that everything had been changed. Her ornaments and luxuries had been removed, and a bed had been placed in a corner to transform it into a new pupil's bedroom. Her presence had been completely wiped away. When she went down for the morning meal, she saw that her seat at Miss Minchin's side was now occupied by Lavinia, who refused to meet her eyes. You ought to have been down earlier, Sara, if you wanted any breakfast. You are not a student here, but an employee. You have duties. You must begin as you are to go on. Take a seat with the younger children and see that they keep quiet and do not waste their food. Yes, Miss Minchin. I must do the best that I can. I must not talk back. This is all that I have. Now that Sara is no longer a student, her time is filled with chores, and the kinds of icons she can gather have changed. You guys seeing how terrible this is? I know Click sees it. XYZ, come out alert. Come look at how terrible this is. As before, icons are only converted at the end of the week until they can be changed or lost by other activities. So now instead of getting knowledge and artistry and belief and faith and good things, she gets hunger, fatigue, pain, chill, sorrow, and pride. Pride is the only one that sounds somewhat normal. Sam, let me give you an update. So, you know the game we were playing, the Yuri game? The main character, Sara, her dad died from the stress of the diamond mines, and he also got a jungle fever. She has no other relatives. She did not inherit any wealth. She is now a maid and a pauper in the school. And instead of gaining knowledge and artistry and other good stats, she gains hunger, fatigue, pain, chill, and sorrow instead. That said, we did complete the Becky bonding events with the maid girl with the blue eyes. So that's some good news. But a lot of bad news happening right now, Sam. Also, Sam, how you doing, bud? How was your day? 3 classes for every year. So it sounds like in every grade level you have 75 students, if that's accurate. Unless I'm understanding it wrong. Why would I want any of these stats? I feel like I wouldn't want any of these. Like, why would I want hunger? This is terrifying. I'm just gonna do like one of each chore. Because I don't know if I want these stats, do I? And I don't know which one I would want. I do like the 2D PNG chibi art of her though, with the little maid dress, because it kind of looks like a witch dress. She kind of looks like a Little Witch Academia to me. What did you miss? I told you what you missed. Did you get to hear me or no? You missed her dad dying and now she's a maid. And we did the bonding events, all of the bonding events for Becky. About why wouldn't you want hunger? Because it just makes it sound like she's dying. Hi, I stumbled upon this stream by chance. Do you recommend this game? If you like visual novels and you like things that are either girls love or slightly girls love, kind of like Licorice Recoil and Yuri games in general, like Seabed, Heart of the Woods, yada yada, then yes, I recommend this game. I'm actually having more fun with it than I anticipated I would have. But yeah, and it's pretty cheap too. I mean, I think I got it for like $10, so I think overall you can't go wrong giving it a try. Also, how are you doing, Eric? What are some other games that you're into? I have over 100 PlayStation 4 games, so I'm pretty sure we could bond over our similar taste in games. Not so high and mighty now, are you? There'll be no more tea and cakes for you, Missy, and don't you forget it. Always expecting us folks to serve with a smile, aren't you, ladies? Never thought of how much else we might have to be getting on with. No, it's always you. Well, see how much you like it then. You're nothing now, missy. Do you hear me? Nothing. Why is even the cook gotta be mean to her? I mean, what? You know what I mean? Like, she's getting disrespect from the rich people. She's getting disrespect from the peasants. And she's been nice to everybody. She's like the kindest human being. She's like Jesus, bro. And they're like trying to crucify her right now. Like, kind to everybody, but they want to crucify her. God, you're a player, Nico? I am a player, my dude. I play every game. Over 400 plus games, and you don't have MC. Listen, I do have probably over 400 games if you consider all my consoles. I easily have over 400. But come on, dude. I do have Minecraft, though. I have it on PS4. It's just different from the PC ones. And I also don't like to play it. Because I got it so I can make a YouTube video. And then I made the YouTube video. And that's it. I had one goal. And I can send you the Minecraft YouTube video that I made if you want. I can send it to you later in Discord. Say something, why don't you? Please, ma'am. You don't have over 30 games? Well, you know, when I was growing up, my family, they were always generous with me. So I think I had like 30 PS2 games, 30 GameCube games, around 30 Game Boy Advance games, maybe like 10 PSP games, around 30 PlayStation 1 games. But then when I got older, I had to buy all of my own games, obviously, like for PS3, PS4, Switch. And that's why I have like over 100 PS4 games, is because, you know, I've been buying them with my own money so I could buy a lot. So one day when you have a job, click, you could buy all the games you want. Right now you're playing Umi Neko no Naku Koro ni. You know what my favorite visual novel is, Eric? I have a few. But, one of them, I feel like it has a similar name to the one you're saying, but it's called Utaware Rumono, which has 3 games. One of them was Mask of Deception, the last one was Mask of Truth, and I forgot what the first one was called. But I'll put it in chat for you, because this is like definitely Utaware Rumono would be like my must-play series. It's not just a visual novel, it also has like combat. The combat is pretty strategic. They have like elemental types where you attack an enemy from might deal more damage. Like attacking them from behind deals twice as much damage, for example. I think they have items that you could use, different weapons maybe, if I remember correctly, or different skills that you could apply to characters to make them stronger. There's a lot of waifus. It's kind of like a sci-fi, fantasy-esque thing. I don't know, it's just really freaking good, man. They have it on PS Vita, they have it on PS4, they might have it on PC, I'm not sure. But I played it on PS4. Originally, I was going to get it for Vita, because I thought it might be cool to have it like as a on-the-go game. But it's very expensive for the Vita if you buy a physical copy, so I ended up getting it for PS4 because it was a little bit cheaper. I know the last game was like $25 physical copy. I think the second game cost me a bit, but the first and the last were cheap, if I remember correctly. And then the other game that I would recommend, if you like visual novels, is called Yuno, because it has this really cool mechanic where you get a certain amount of like these gemstone thingies, and you can place those on the timeline so that you could jump back to that part of the segment of the game, so you could experience different routes, because it branches out a lot. And sometimes you have to like go further into a route, collect an item, go back to wherever you placed a gemstone, use that item to now get into a different route. It was pretty it was pretty complex, but not overly complex. It was like the just right level of complexity to make it like really engaging. A lot of waifus, romance, maybe a little bit of mystery. And it was based, I heard, on an H game that was originally on an early platform. I think like the Nintendo or the NES or something. But then they remade it for the Switch and the PS4. And they took out, I guess, what made it an H game. There's no hentai scenes. It's a lot more safe for work. but you know, you still get to see some sexiness, like some cleavage and all that stuff, maybe a bikini. So yeah, those are two of my favorite games because they have like really awesome stories, but also really awesome mechanics where you're not just clicking through the game, you actually have to strategize and think a little bit more. I mean, I think a lot of visual novels try to do mechanics like that to make things more strategic, but Yuno and Utawara Rumono did it extremely well, especially since Utawara Rumono had combat, which was pretty unique. Not a lot of visual novels have combat. It's sad that they discontinued PS Vita. It is sad that they discontinued PS Vita. I actually enjoyed it. I'm trying to think what my favorite game was. I got it because I wanted to play Trails in the Sky on a console instead of PC. So I played Trails in the Sky 2 on the PS Vita. I could read you what games I have. I know I got Nurse Love Addiction, Nurse Love Syndrome. I had Yeast Memories of Celceta, but then I sold it and I got the Celceta game for PS4 instead. I have the Persona 4 Golden and a few other Vita games, a few other ones that I haven't played yet. You were more into PSP. PSP was pretty good too. I had Sonic Rivals on PSP. I had Persona 3. I have Valkyria Chronicles. That's one of my favorites. I had Trails in the Sky 1. I had Tenchu. I had Ratchet and Clank. I had Daxter. I had Ape Escape. I had Final Fantasy Crisis Core and a few other Final Fantasy games. Yeah, PSP was decent as well. You could get the illegal copy. The illegal copy of what? Sam, remember I'm 14. I couldn't buy them if I wanted. Dude, when you get a job, you can go for it, though. Do you mostly play visual novels, Eric, or are there any other genres you play as well? I do like visual novels, but I play everything. JRPGs, racing games, fighting games, first-person shooters, sports games, you name it. Don't you ma'am me. Ain't none of us ma'am or miss. Not down here. That's for the folks upstairs. Please, I came to see if you had any duties for me. Ha! Hoping I wouldn't. And you could duck away and leave me to take the blame if you're caught. Look at your hands, soft as porridge. Soon crack and bleed if I gave you any real work. And then you'd ruin what you touch. Here, girl, take these rags out back and wash them. And if you bleed on them, wash them again. Yes, cook. You had Final Fantasy Dissidia? I had both. I had Dissidia and I had Dissidia Duodecim, which was Dissidia like 12. I played, I think, Dissidia 12 first, and then I played the one that came out prior to that. Duodecim had lightning in it, and it had a few other characters that I think the first game did not have. I also have Dissidia NT, which is on the PS4. That game kind of was whack because you had to play arcade mode a lot to unlock points to then play the story, which was stupid. It's like, why do I have to spam arcade mode over and over and over again just to play the story? Dissidia was your first Final Fantasy? That is terrible. That is not what a first intro to Final Fantasy should be like. Damn, I'm sorry. Have you ever played Final Fantasy X XYZ? I feel like that's accessible for you because it should be on PC. It should be on PS4. Like, the ideal first Final Fantasy game would be, in my opinion, either 9, 10, or 12. Mine was 12, and then I played 10, and then I played 9, and those are like the 3 best ones. I know a lot of people like 7, 8, and 6 as well. I got lost in 6, so I never finished it. And I also kind of got lost in 8 after I got like the airship or something, because I feel like they don't always give you the best directions on where to go, and with the graphics it's kind of hard to tell what's what. So yeah. What is Final Fantasy? It is a turn-based JRPG game. So kind of like Persona, if you've ever seen Persona games that are turn-based, or Dragon Quest, or Pokemon. Pokemon's a turn-based game, so it has combat kind of like Pokemon, except instead of one fighter at a time. It'll be like maybe 4 people. Nowadays, the Final Fantasy games have gotten rid of turn-based combat, and it's more like free-flowing action with ATB gauges. But yeah, Final Fantasy is one of Japan's biggest RPG series, along with Persona, Dragon Quest, and maybe the Yoko Taro stuff like Nier. You were 6 when you played it? Oh. I played my first Final Fantasy game, I think, when I was around, I want to say 16. So you played Final Fantasy before I did. So I guess that's pretty good, in a sense. I mustn't complain. I must show her that I am trying to earn my living. Okay. I can't do events. This is weird. So I can't do events with the girls that I actually have to get trophies for, but I can do events with the girls that I already maxed my bond with, which kind of makes sense, right? The girls who I actually became friends with still want to be my friend, but it's also still kind of weird because, like, I want to grow my other bonds, dude. I want to get the trophies, but you know what? Let me just hang out with Becky and be happy. The hard bed would never be a comfortable place to sleep, but after struggling through her unaccustomed labors day after day, Sara could not help but collapse into exhaustion. Sometimes when she woke, she would not at first remember where she was or what had happened. It would be as if she had been snatched from her old room and trapped in a cold gray prison. Memory, when it resurfaced, brought no relief. The prison was the world. There was no escape. That morning, Sara was roused from her slumber by the squeak of hinges. Someone was entering her room. Becky? It's alright, miss. Come to help you get ready, that's all. You've been such a rich young lady. You've been waited on and foot all your life. Oh, waited on hand and foot all your life. And what would you do now without no maid? Them dresses of yours is meant for a maid to button. Now you're poor. You've got only me to wait on you. It won't take a minute. I can do it right quick. But you shouldn't. I'm not any different from you. Of course you're different, miss. You were brought up different. Not like this. It were never meant to be like this for you. The missus could have broke it to you more gentle. She's like one of them wicked stepmothers in the stories. It wouldn't change anything. I would still be a pauper, and my papa would still be dead. Anyone here play Genshin or HK? Or Wuthering Waves? I used to play Genshin. I had 3 accounts. AR-59 Americas. I think I was AR-58 Asia and maybe AR-56 Europe. So I had 3 accounts in 3 different regions, and they were all above AR-55. And I had like, Jesus, I think like 16 level 95 stars in the Americas account, which was cool. But yeah, I stopped playing because I was doing the same thing every day, and I was like, why do the same thing every day when I could do this, like what I'm doing right now, spend time experiencing new games rather than the same old, you know what I mean? It wouldn't change anything. I would still be a pauper, and my papa would still be dead. Let me help get you dressed, miss. She already has so much to do. She shouldn't be wasting her time pampering me. I'm not any better than she is. Despite that twinge of guilt, Sara lacked the energy to protest further. Becky was right. It was much easier to get dressed when she let someone else help her. There, you see? That's much better. Sara essayed to smile as thanks, but her face struggled to find a happy expression. Don't you worry about it, miss. You helped me lots of times. You gave me food and told me stories and made it all seem so much nicer. It's my turn now, isn't it? I can't get you cakes or books, but I can do your room and your dressing and anything else you need. I know all you need to know about attics and washing and all kinds of things. I'll help, I will. My loyal handmaid. Oh, Becky, I don't deserve you. Sara's eyes gleamed with unshed tears, but she did not speak. Becky patted her shoulder, more sure of herself now than she had asserted her expertise in scullery maid life. Don't you worry if you don't feel much like talking right now. I know sometimes a heart in trouble should be left alone. But if you do need me, I'll be right next door. I'm sorry we can't talk much while we're working, but the missus boxed our ears for loitering. So don't mind me, miss, if I don't say nothing polite during the day. Someone would be down on us if I did. I always mean please and thank you. And beg pardon, but I dasn't to take time to say it. All Sara could do was nod. Oh, Becky, if not for you, I think my heart would break for loneliness. How big the game size now? Too big? Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 60 gigabytes or more. Because I feel like when I deleted it from my computer, from my PC, it was around 40. Right back, gonna go take a shower. Alright, you enjoy your shower, Click. Do make an effort, Ermengarde. The classroom is inches from the dining room. Even you should be able to manage. That's not fair. I had to go back upstairs for my book. Stung by Lavinia's teasing, Ermengarde hurried through the door and closed it behind her. They're going to class. They have books. She stood there for a moment, biting her lip and staring at the wood of the door, when suddenly it opened again. Sara, come with me. Sara lowered her gaze and followed Miss Minchin into the kitchen. Emma, the basket? Here, ma'am. Very good. Sara, here's a list of things we need from the market. And here's some coins to pay for them. When you are done, bring your purchases to Emma and any leftover coin to me. I know what such items should cost. Do not attempt to pocket any of the coins for yourself, or you will be whipped for theft. Yes, Miss Minchin. On with you, then. Sara kept her head down and walked out of the room without protest. At least her education is not completely wasted. That Becky can scarcely read her name. I certainly couldn't give her written instructions. No, ma'am. Well, get back to your work. Yes, ma'am. Alright, guys. I don't know what the point of these stats are, because earlier it's not like we could actually spend them, at least not yet. Let's not tend the fires. $100 gigabytes for XYZ? Yeah, that's why I think Genshin is kind of dumb. That's one of the reasons. Like, you can't even have it on your phone anymore if it's that many GB. I mean, I could, I guess. I think my phone, I got a new one. I think it's like 256 gigabytes or more. But still, I wouldn't want to download that crap. What's going on, Bloody? How you doing, bud? What have you been up to lately? It's been a long time. For those of you who don't know Bloody, he streams on Twitch. He streams Genshin and other stuff. He a good dude. Ouch, Lavi! You're sitting on my hair. Perhaps you ought not to spread it everywhere then. Please, won't you move on? I'm reading. As you can see, why don't you move instead? It's not like you're paying attention to your books. You never do. Sara, dusting shelves along the wall, tried not to react to the mention of books. Good, playing a bunch of gacha games. How are you? I'm doing alright. I've been working as a librarian now. We've got over 2,000 volumes of manga at our library. I'm the official manga librarian. And I'm starting to get into streaming again here and there for the next few months. I'm going to start university in August, so I might have to pull back again once that starts. But for the summer, I'm going to be streaming again, chilling here on YouTube. Right now, we're doing some Yuri, and we've been playing some, like, Castlevania-esque games as well. What gacha games are you playing besides Genshin? I'm guessing you're doing a little bit of Honkai. It's none of my business. I must finish this task and return. I can't move because you're on top of my hair. Please, Lavi. Oh, very well. Have you still been streaming, Bloody? I'm very rarely on Twitch, so I don't even know what's happening on Twitch anymore. But it seems like a lot of people continued to stream. I know a few people have stopped, but it seems like a lot of people are still going for it. Lavinia stood and moved over slightly before sitting again. Suddenly, her eyes gleamed. XYZ going to uni too? I thought you said you didn't want to go because it was too much money. $19.99 Star Rail Solo Leveling has a gacha game? Wuthering Waves is a game that somebody just asked us about. Dang. You guys are all on the same page. You're forced to go? I don't know if people can force you. It's your choice if you want to get right into trying to find a job or going to trade school. I know a lot of people are starting to write articles like, oh, children are forced to go to college and then their bachelor's degree isn't worth anything. And now they have debt and they have nothing to show for it. So if you are going to go, make sure you're making a good decision that'll give you financial stability in the future. I think there are one too many shadows in this room. What? Oh no, I was wrong. It is only the scullery girl. Sara turned her head just a bit and looked at Lavinia, saying nothing. To think that she was the girl with the diamond mines. She does look like an object, doesn't she? Hush. And she's queerer than ever. Never liked her much, but I can't bear that way she has now of staring at her betters without speaking, as if she were supposing something nasty happening to us. I would not waste my time in imagining bad things happening to other people. I watch people to find them out, and to try and avoid any mischief they might make for me. If Lavinia chirped me or shoved me, no one would care. No one would punish her. She continued to stare at the two girls until Jessie nervously clutched her friend's hand. Come on, let's go and sit in my room instead. The atmosphere would certainly be an improvement. And Sara said nothing. Okay, I can... Oh! Okay. So apparently, I can pay points for events now. But apparently it'll also set the route. So if I pick Becky, I'm gonna end up with Becky, which is fine. That's what we want. A quiet tap at the door caught Sara's attention. Do you need anything, miss? Oh, Becky, please come in. Do you want me to fluff your pillow, miss? Don't know if there's enough left of it to fluff, but I can give it a good punch. No, it's fine. What I want most of all is your company. That's easy to give. Dr. Light? He should be a doctor or a nurse or something. I know how that feels, XYZ. No, not doctor. Too much work. So what are you gonna do, man? You gonna be an engineer? Becky took a seat on the attic floor, not minding the dirt, and gazed up at Sara. You look a bit better, miss. Do I? Not like you used to, but better than you were the other week. You're talking more again. I like to hear you talk. Oh, now that you say that, I don't know what to say. I don't think I have any stories in my mind anymore. That's alright, it takes time, it does. When my pa died and we had to go to the workhouse, I was sad for a long time. What, your father? I never knew anything about Becky's father, alive or dead. I never thought to ask. I'm sorry, I did not know. Becky shrugged carelessly. It were a long time ago, miss. It were a good un. Big and strong and never mean. Not like some. Did his best to take care of us until he couldn't. That's about all I remember. What did he do? Worked down at the docks, hard work. Mom couldn't cope without him. So we lost our room, and it was off to the steel for us. Oh god, the steel? The workhouse, miss. That's what folks call it sometimes. Oh, it must be from the Bastille. She explained to a wide-eyed Becky about the French prisoners trapped in the dark for years while their tangled beards grew around them. Cool, I'm glad I can't grow a beard. I never knew it were anything to do with the French, miss. No one said. If I still had my books, I could show you more about the history of what happened there. She sighed faintly. Yagami route? Who's a Yagami? I miss so many things that there seems no point in dwelling on all of them. I miss my room and my books. I miss my papa most of all, but I do miss classes. I loved learning. I had so much left still to learn. I wasn't finished yet. I don't understand everything the way I was supposed to. If I can't go to classes anymore, I'm afraid I'll forget everything and my mind will be empty. Do you know what I mean? Not really, miss. Guess I never knew anything much to forget. Oh, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. You are clever. I'm sure you could learn just as much as anyone if you were taught properly. They taught us bits in the workhouse, miss. We were meant to learn good habits and Christian virtues and writing and arithmetic. Only not much of those last two. Case they got in the way of the first. Sara called a message on the pincushion which Becky had made for her so lovingly. From Judgment. Bro. Are you simping Yagami? That makes no sense. Sara called a message on the pincushion. That's right, Becky is literate, even if her spelling is worse than Lottie's. Were your teachers very helpful and encouraging? Becky laughed. If you think the missus is harsh, miss, you ought to see what the Masters of the Steel did to boys who asked questions. But you can't learn if you don't ask questions. You learn what they want you to learn, that's all. I reckon it would be different if you were a teacher, miss. Sara's eyes lit with the idea. Becky, that's it. I can teach you the things I know, and then I won't forget them. That is, if you're interested. I don't know if I can do it, miss, but I can try. I shall have to think of what would make a good lesson. Right. She stood up and brushed off her skirt. I've got to go and sleep now, miss, but I'm glad to see you're feeling better. She bobbed slightly and then hurried out of the room. Am I? Sara lay back on her bed and contemplated her feelings. The darkness was not gone. Not even mostly gone, but perhaps with a good friend at her side, it might begin to lift. Law is also nice, but I don't know, I feel like there's so many lawyers, at least where I live. There's like a law office everywhere. And it makes me wonder, like, do they get enough business, or is the competition kind of rough? It's also a lot of, I think, sometimes overtime work with no pay. A lot of paperwork that needs to be filled out and read carefully. I wouldn't say it's definitely a stressful job. Is this still the same game from last stream? Yes. Don't you recognize the characters? Last stream was Scriblio. Last. Emma, where is Sara? Curled up in the corner there, slacking no doubt. You girl, get to your feet so the lady can see you. Sara, who had been crouched on the floor, scrubbing the inside of a particularly stubborn pot, pushed herself up. She rose too quickly for her dizzy head, and then had to fight not to wobble where she stood. Yes, Miss Minchin? As you are so gifted with the French language, you will assist the younger students with their lessons. However, you are not to linger about with them. Remember your place and your duties. You are not a friend to those girls. You work for this seminary. You are here to serve them, nothing more. If I catch you telling stories, or shirking to gossip with the students, you will be punished. Is that understood? Yes, Miss Minchin. Good, now get upstairs and air out the bedrooms. Sara nodded and left quickly, before any other unpleasant words could be spoken. There is something distrustingly impudent about the girl. I do not trust her. I will not have her forming intimacies and talking to the other children. Girls that age love a grievance, and if she begins to tell romantic stories about herself, she'll become an ill-used heroine, and her parents will be given a wrong impression. It is better that she should live a separate life, one suited to her circumstances. I am giving her a home, and that is more than she has any right to expect from me. I shouldn't worry, ma'am. Those little misses don't look much past their noses. They see how she's dressed. They don't want to think about her or talk to her more than out of my way, or fetch my tea. Miss Minchin looked at her. Begging your pardon, ma'am. Have the tea brought to my rooms when it is ready. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I think we're gonna need a lot of sorrow. Because we have no sorrow left. I don't know what sorrow is. Because sorrow might be the black thing, but I thought that was fatigue. Oh no, sorrow is that cloud, I think. That cloud looking thing. It seems like anything causes sorrow, but especially 10 fires. Man, I hate the days where she doesn't gain any stats. Girl. Yes, cook? Take this message into town. The address is printed on the envelope. See? Take it and go. Sara picked up the envelope and hesitated. What are you waiting for? It's raining. Oh, you have eyes and ears, do you? Mind you keep that letter dry as you go. I haven't a carriage anymore. Better walk faster then. But... and a tongue you found as well. Wondered how long that would take. Without warning, Cook lashed out the wooden spoon she was holding, striking Sara hard upon the arm. Ow! That's what you get for talking back to me. Dogs aren't afraid of the rain. You're an animal the same as them, so you deal with it. I don't think dogs like to go out in the rain either. Are you gonna get moving, or am I gonna have to school you again? There's nothing else to be done. Sara bowed her head, hiding the pain in her arm and stinging in her eyes, and walked out into the rain. Well, that's not good. Alright, let's continue our Becky events. It was unusual for Sara and Becky both to be sent out of Miss Minchin's seminary at the same time, much less on the same errand. After all, with neither girl in the house, Cook would not have an easy access to anyone to fetch and carry for her, and might be forced to bestir herself from the kitchen. However, there were times when the items needed were so bulky that even Miss Minchin could not expect Sara to carry them alone. In that case, rather than spend extra pennies for delivery, Sara and Becky could be dispatched together. Mind your feet, miss. There's a mucky bit there. It's fine, I do this all the time. You shouldn't oughter, miss. You ought to be up riding high in one of them carriages. Oh well, you can't feel the breeze so much in a carriage, and sometimes they are very jolting. And you cannot see the sights nearly so well when you are boxed in. Becky looked dubiously up at the drab building fronts they were passing. What sights? Oh, you never know unless you look. There might be something nice in a shop window. You can't read the covers of the books in the shop if you're going past in a carriage. Or you might find a flower growing all unexpected in a crack between buildings, or a pretty button that someone has lost. In truth, Sara often found these errands disheartening, but it was her nature to make the best of things. In the face of Becky's skepticism, she relied even more upon her imagination. I've now arrived after drizzling my body in the water and taking soap upon my lebod. Be right back, going to make dinner. Alright, cool. Enjoy your dinner. Let us know what you make. Welcome back, Click. I find it very apt and appropriate that you're speaking French, since apparently these girls learn French. Just then, a carriage rattled past them, its wheels striking a bump in the road and sending pebbles flying onto the pavement. Oh. Are you hurt, miss? Did one of them hit you? No, I'm fine, but I thought I saw... She bent low and picked up the largest pebble. Look, Becky, look. What is that? It's a fossil. She turned the stone over in her hands. On most sides it was only smooth, gray stone, but one particular angle revealed the ghostly white pattern of a shell. Just think, Becky, hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of years ago, there was a living creature there. Millions? Well, I don't know. I don't know how you can tell how old a fossil is. I suppose the scientists at the museum might know. The dinosaur they had was millions of years old. I'm sure of that. Yeah, what? Oh dear, I don't suppose Becky's teachers at the workhouse would have told her anything about the latest scientific discoveries. Dinosaur, it means fearfully great lizard. Bigger than horses. The biggest ones are even bigger than houses. Like dragons? Yes, a lot like dragons, but they died a long time ago. All that we have left of them is their bones, in fossils, just like this pebble. Even though the pebble quite clearly did not contain a dragon bone, Becky stared at it with just as much awe. All that in rocks and stuff? Sara smiled wistfully. I wish I could take you to the museum and show you everything that we saw. I wish I could go back. I had so much left to learn. But you see, there are still wonderful things in our lives, full of magic and adventure. This pebble looks small and unimportant, but it holds secrets of the past. Even the small and overlooked creatures of the world are still precious. Becky grinned at her. Well, miss, I reckon you're more precious than I am. But won't neither of us be worth much if Cook thinks we've been dawdling? Sara put the pebble back on the ground. No, don't put it on the ground. Sell it. Make money. Where it might be discovered by some other curious child. No! Make money. Free yourself from pauperdom. You're right. We had better hurry and get back to the Bastille. The Steel, miss? Isn't it just like a prison? I'm the prisoner of conscience, locked away. Because I would not serve an evil regime. I've been locked up for years and years and years, and everybody has forgotten about me. Miss Minchin is the wicked jailer who stalks up and down the halls at night with a great metal ring of keys on her belt, clanking and clangling, just to taunt us. And you, Becky, you're the prisoner in the next cell, whom I can hear through the walls but never see. Why would I be in prison? Oh, it was probably mistaken identity. Someone else stole a loaf of bread because they were hungry, and the gendarmes thought it was you, and they wouldn't listen to your story, so they locked you up. Becky nodded. It seemed perfectly plausible from her experience of the world. We must invent a secret code, a way that we can communicate with each other without our jailer overhearing us. That way, even when we are locked into ourselves, we are never alone. Oh, miss. What is it? Only that it ain't right for me to be glad you're here when you're only here because of all the bad things that happened to you. I'm sorry. Oh, Becky, you don't have to be sorry. I know you must have been very lonely in the attic by yourself sometimes. If I didn't have you, I don't know how I could survive. Is it wrong for me to be glad that you are here with me when I should be wishing that you had a happy life somewhere else? I don't think I'd know how to be happy, miss, if I weren't with you. Sara laughed. How light you make me feel, and how light on our feet we had better be if we don't want Cook to scold us. I don't know French. Our language classes got cancelled because the Spanish and German teacher changed schools. So we haven't had language class in a couple of months. How many languages does Click speak? You speak 2. I speak English, and I speak a little bit of Spanish and a little bit of Italian. Sara. Yes, Miss Minchin. Take this. A Latin book? Did you want me to put this away for you, ma'am? No, that is for you. Am I going to be allowed to return to classes? Perhaps there was a mistake. Perhaps my papa lives and... Of course not. You are still an ignorant child. Be grateful that you are being given the chance to make something better of yourself. Study that in the evenings. You will be examined on its contents to see how you are progressing. When you have learned that book satisfactorily, then and only then I may grant you another. To make a chore, what should be a delight. But I am hungry for books, and she knows it. Thank you, Miss Minchin. I am pleased to see your attitude has improved somewhat. Remember, you are in my debt for all that was spent on you that your father never paid. But that does not mean that you can never be redeemed. Show a good Christian work ethic. Serve as you are told. Cause me no more trouble, and perhaps when you are an adult, we will be able to come to a new arrangement. Do you think you are a good Christian? Now, on with your chores. Okay. We definitely... I don't even know if these stats matter anymore, now that we're locked into a route. But I'm probably going to need more sorrow. Japanese is a lot because you got to learn the hiragana and katakana, which sometimes I think I was trying to look at a hiragana book and they were like over 100 hiragana. Then you got to learn kanji, and then it makes it easier if you know the romaji translations. So you're not just learning like English to romaji, which would be doable. You're learning English to romaji to katakana, hiragana, kanji. That's a lot, bro. Learning languages. I like learning languages. It's usually easy for me, but only if it's with the letters and characters that we're familiar with, the Latin alphabet, I guess. Sara's life was just as filled with people as it had always been. She lived in the same school and the same faces surrounded her, and yet it was a strange and lonely life. More often than not, there was no one at all that she could talk to. When she was sent out on errands and walked through the streets, a forlorn little figure carrying a basket or a parcel, she felt as if the crowds hurrying past her made her loneliness greater. When I was the Princess Sara, and I went out into town in my carriage or walking with Mariette, everyone liked to turn and smile at me. She had been a beautifully cared for little girl, and such naturally attracted attention. Her bright, eager little face, her picturesque clothing, all had been rare and pleasant to look at. No one looks at me now. No one seems to see me at all. There was, unfortunately, no shortage of poor and shabbily dressed children in the streets of London. One more was nothing remarkable at all. Even with the great shock of her change in circumstances, Sara's body had not ceased to grow. She had been allowed to keep only the oldest and least valuable of her clothing, which now fit quite badly indeed. As such, when it happened that Sara passed by a shop window with a mirror in it, she did not at first recognize the reflected girl as herself. "Oh, Papa, what would you think of your little missus now?" Okay, I still need to spend points apparently. I did not anticipate that. The streets of London would never be perfectly clean, no matter how many brushes the street sweepers wielded. Rain could not wash the mud and refuse away. It only blended them together, helping them to spread their unappetizing clutches over the city's stones. And if the streets were never clean, then it stood to reason that an entrance hall was very clean, very rarely clean either. Today it was Sara's task to scrub away what had been tracked inside. If this dirt could talk, what stories might it have to tell? How many books has it traveled under? Perhaps mud doesn't like being indoors. If it can make it all the way back to the fields and forests, then it can grow again with the grass and the trees. Oh, humble dirt, if I could, I would carry you to freedom. Sara was jolted out of her pleasant daydreams by an all too familiar sound. Miss Minchin's voice raised in anger. But it was not Sara that she was scolding. Her voice appeared to be coming from the nearby classroom. Wasn't Becky in there? She crept closer to listen. As well as stupid? Is it expecting too much from a clod to ask that you watch where you put your feet? Yes, Mum. I mean, no, Mum. Don't you get smart with me, you wretch. That cat is worth twice what you are. Was it Becky who stepped on Tibble earlier? I did think I'd heard him screech. I'm sure she didn't mean to. Tibble loves to curl up in the most inconvenient places. I'm always having to chase him off the stairs so no one trips over him. Unlike you lazy girls, Tibble always gets his job done. He sleeps half the time. We work all day and into the night. I'm sorry, Mum. I'll be more careful. You had better be. There are dozens of girls in the workhouses who could fill your position in a heartbeat. Remember, Tybalt holds a pedigree from the National Cat Club. In light of your carelessness, I am docking your wages for the week. If you do not improve, it will go worse with you. Wages? Her own servitude, of course, came without recompense. Miss Minchin had emphasized repeatedly that Sara was in her debt. Anything she might earn was immediately deducted and applied to that balance. But Becky was an ordinary girl, hired from the workhouse by traditional channels. If Sara had ever really considered the matter, it might have been obvious that she must receive some sort of wages. Alright, Sam, you get that grub. Money had never been of great interest to Sara. First, she had so much that she had never had to count the cost of anything. And then she had nothing at all, and at all costs were equally out of reach. Becky's wages, though, created something of a mystery. If she was being paid, why did she seem as penniless as Sara? See that you do. And for a start, Sara realized that Miss Minchin had concluded her tirade and was moving towards the door. She quickly hurried back to her work. Questions would have to wait for the safety of a dark attic. That evening, Sara made her way up the stairs to the attic, checking carefully for any suspiciously furry lump that might attempt to block her path. Inside her room, she could not resist lying back on the hard mattress for just a few moments, to take the weight off her feet. I mustn't sleep, not yet. If I fall asleep now, I will forget. My head feels so heavy. My arms are trembling from too much work. I daren't carry a candle like this. It would shake right out of my grasp. I must not sleep yet. Wearily, she struggled back to her feet and stumbled over to the wall that divided her half of the attic from Becky's. She knocked a careful pattern of 4 knocks, a message to her fellow prisoner. Come to me through the secret passage. I have something to communicate. 5 quick knocks answered her. She is coming. Almost immediately, the door of the attic opened and Becky appeared. Is everything alright, miss? Oh, of course. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry you. I only wanted to talk. Actually, I wanted to ask you about something. Is it true that Miss Minchin pays you wages? Yes, miss. Well, when she wants to, and most of the time she don't. I never knew you had any money. Ain't no bit a half shilling a week, miss. And that only if it's paid. Seems every other week the missus finds some reason I don't deserve it. 6 pence? To Miss Minchin, that coin is nothing at all. And she takes it away just to taunt Becky? But she does pay you sometimes, right? What do you do with it? Oh, well, it used to be I saved up my wages to take to my mom at the workhouse. She was still there, you see, and I thought it might help. Only, after I bung it to her, when I've gone back, I can't find her no more. She ain't there. Maybe she found a job? Could be, miss. Or could be she took a ride out of the city looking for some other life now that she knew I had a place and didn't need her. But, well, she were always found a gin. Sara shook her head. Every time I think that I understand the world and the people in it, I realize again how little I really know. It's all accidents and tragedies all over. Good things happened to me by accident when I was born, and then sad things came later, but all those same sad things happened to you too, without even the good ones first. Becky lost her father and her mother both. She had to live in a workhouse. She never had teachers who were kind to her. It isn't right. Why can't she be happy? Why can't everyone be happy? Becky did not seem to notice Sara's outrage. Some good things did happen to me, miss. I never had a friend like you before. And I've liked having you tell me things, even if I'm not clever enough to remember one. Henry from the other. You are? You're just not used to it. It's not your fault England had a lot of kings named Henry. If you say so, miss. We must have another lesson, but not tonight. I'm already too tired. Still, the thought would not leave her. If you don't take away your wages to the workhouse anymore, what do you do with them? Do you buy yourself food or save for new shoes? It was a pleasant thought to imagine poor downtrodden Becky sneaking away to buy a ticket for the music hall and an evening's light entertainment, but when would she find the time? Click says, first, I almost rank up in Valorant, then I lose, dang. 3 in a row, not like this, Click. Oh no, I couldn't. I don't. If I bought a pie and eat it, then the next day I wouldn't have no pie or no coin. I maybe could buy shoes or blankets someday if I saved enough, but I don't know what I need the most. And if I spent all my coin, then I wouldn't have it if I need something else more. And what if something bad happened, miss? What if you got sick and needed a doctor? Miss Minchin wouldn't pay. You ought to be worrying more about yourself than me, but I suppose it's very wise of you to save your money. Becky shook her head. I know what I'm worth, miss, and I know when I'm not good enough. I can't make decisions, I can't. That's why I can't spend nothing. I don't know what's right to do, and I don't know what to be wrong. Suddenly she clasped Sara's hand. You're the clever one, miss. You know what to do. You'll help me decide when the time's right, won't you? I'll try. Becky let out a sigh of relief. I'll bring you my tin to keep it safe. Truth be told, I'll sleep better with you having it. Sara's eyes sparkled. It'll be like our buried treasure. And so Becky's battered little tin with its sparse sprinkling of a small change was fetched and remarked upon as if it were a coffer of rubies, then buried up under Sara's bed. And Emily shall keep watching. Quintus Filius Est. Sara sat alone in her attic room, practicing the vocabulary from the Latin book she had been given. Metella mater per est. She could scarcely hear her own voice over the rattling of rain on the slate roof. The sound of droplets surged and danced in waves, seeming to form words she could almost understand. I cannot concentrate. She set the book on the thin mattress and looked up at the blurred, shifting images through the wet skylight. If she stood on her bed and looked out of the skylight when it was not dark or raining, she could see the attic window of the house next to Miss Minchin's seminary. However, that window was always dark and empty. The house was vacant. I wish someone would move into that house. Suppose that one morning I looked out and saw that window propped open and a head and shoulders framed within it. If it looked a nice head, I might begin by saying good morning, and then all sorts of things might happen. Of course, it's not really likely that anyone but underservants would sleep in an attic. Click says she should buy shoes and use it as a blanket. I don't think that would work well, Click. I think that's not covering enough surface area. Sara looked around at the dark and dirty environment that had become her living space. All around the world was gray. A few spots of color, the old red footstool, the book's cover, Emily's hair, were like fish in muddy water, glimpsed for moments and then fading away. This is the best I can look forward to, for the rest of my life, to have books when Miss Minchin decides that I am worthy of them. When I'm older, she will make me a teacher, but she will never pay me. There will always be more debt. She will be obliged to give me more respectable clothes for the school's sake, but they will still be plain and ugly and make it clear that I am a servant and I will never escape. Then a thought came back to her which made the color rise in her cheek and a spark light itself in her eyes. She straightened her thin little body and lifted her head. Whatever comes cannot alter one thing. If I am a princess in rags and tatters, I still can be a princess inside. It would be easy to be a princess if I were dressed in cloth of gold, but it is a great deal more of a triumph to be one all the time when no one knows it. Marie Antoinette, when she was in prison and her throne was gone, and she had only a black gown, and her hair was white, and they insulted her and called her Widow Carpet, she was a great deal more like a queen than when she was so gay and everything was so grand. I like her best then. Those howling mobs of people did not frighten her. She was stronger than they were, and even when they cut her head off, Nothing that I am facing is as frightening as that. Okay. We need stats. We do not know which stats we need. What we do know is that we don't need so much more fatigue. We don't have a lot of pain, but we got some pain. I'm still trying to get sorrow. I'm not getting a lot of sorrow. Sara, Lavinia tells me that you have left the window in her room quite open all day long. Did I? I don't think that I did. But it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, Miss Minchin. It was an accident. Have you no thought for the weather? If it begins to rain, many of her belongings could be damaged, you stupid girl. You don't know that you are saying these things to a princess, and that if I chose, I could wave my hand and order you to execution. Yes, I'm sorry. I had better go and check that all the other windows are closed properly. I'll only spare you because I am a princess, and you are a poor, stupid, unkind, vulgar old thing, and you don't know any better. Please excuse me, cook. A princess must be polite. Sara bobbed gently and walked out of the room. That girl smiles as if she hadn't even been scolded. Sometimes I cannot tell whether she hears me at all. It is as if she were living in another world. She's got more airs and graces than if she come from Buckingham Palace, that young one. She drops them about the kitchen as if there was nothing. It is not a natural way for a child who has lost her only parent to behave. She's a clever girl, and that is why she's useful. But it may also turn her sly. I won't have her plotting mischief. Keep her busy. If she is tired enough, she will have no time to put to ill purposes. Alright, we only need 5 pride for this next event. That's pretty good. That Saturday afternoon, Sara was assisting little Lottie with her schoolwork revisions. You must say your times tables over and over again every day, Lottie. It's very important. But they're boring. You must memorize them until you know them so well that you don't even have to think about the answers. They should always seem obvious, as if they were already written in front of you. You will need that in order to do more maths later. I don't want to do more maths, Sara, Mama. Well, you don't want maths to be your mystical weakness, do you? Imagine if someone asks you, what is 3 times 12? And you're so confused that your brain seizes. And you're frozen in place and you miss supper because you can't find the answer. 3 times 12? I don't have to memorize 3 times 12, do I? Miss Minchin didn't say anything about 12. Not yet. Now, let me hear what you have been practicing. Lottie furrowed her brow and pursed her lips, but it seemed there was no escaping it. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. As Sara coached Lottie through the simple mathematics drill, Becky came into the room on her cleaning rounds. She paused for a moment, listening to that shrill, childish voice reciting number after number, a look of confusion on her face. I really ought to give Becky help with maths too, if only we had more free time. 33. There. Now can we do something else? You never tell me stories anymore, Sara, Mama. I'm sorry, I'm only allowed to tell you about things that you are learning in your classes. Lottie's cheeks puffed out in disapproval before she could begin to wail and fuss. Sara redirected the conversation. You like Becky? So do I. That's why I chose her route. Becky is best girl. She's kind. She's not selfish. If anything, she's the opposite. She's generous even though she doesn't have much that she can offer. She got blue eyes. She's like perfect. She's a perfect human being despite being poor. History's a kind of story. Have you been paying attention to your histories? What can you tell me about Henry VII? Lottie gulped, thrown off her sulk. He became king when he was a baby and then got locked in a tower. Weren't that Henry VI? She clapped her hands over her mouth in dismay at interrupting. Don't be shy, Becky. Come and sit with us. You are studying too. She is? Everyone needs to know history. Come on, Becky. Let's see what you can remember. Tell us about Henry VII. Well, it were all part of the War of Roses, I think. Both of them were, but the 6th started it and the 7th ended it. Not sure who was in between, except they weren't Henry. That's right, Henry VII won his crown by winning the war. Why was it called the War of the Roses? Lottie's turn. They wore red and white roses to show which side they were on. They sat together on the long classroom benches, their heads occasionally bowing close to murmur some of the more interesting tidbits of ancient gossip and giggle, as school children often do. It might have been this sight that provoked Lavinia when she entered the classroom. What is going on here? Oh. You filthy things hovering over a young lady like Lottie. You'll give her diseases. Ew. Hush, there's nothing wrong. Why are you sitting down? Are you shirking? Miss Minchin wouldn't like to hear that. I'm sorry, miss. Don't move. She stood up, folded her arms, and glared at Lavinia in her best impression of a stern teacher. We are having weekend classes. Helping students with their schoolwork is one of my responsibilities, Miss Herbert. Miss Minchin wouldn't like to hear that you were interfering. Oh, if you're helping students, then what is that creature doing here? Becky is just as much a student as any of the rest of us. She's helping me remember my kings. Helping, is she? Helping you right into horrible habits and dropped H's, I expect. She turned to glare back full force onto Becky. Get up and get away from that young lady right this instant. Yes, miss. Becky, don't. I have to go, miss. I'm sorry. She hurried out of the room, not looking back. That's better. At least the air in here won't smell quite so much. You must always be on your guard around people like that, Lottie. Check your pockets carefully. That one's a thief. She might have stolen your pennies. Lottie's eyes went wide and she patted her skirt nervously. Becky's not a thief. Breeding will tell. The Dreg Society stay that way for a reason. You ought to know. You're the only Dreg that is here. At least Becky is trying to learn and improve herself. We shall see. Lifting her nose, she flounced out of the room. One afternoon, there came a familiar tapping at Sara's door. She knew by the sound that it was Becky, but Becky was too excited to wait for a response and burst into the room only moments after knocking. Can we see her from your window? See what? There's a van and horses and men with furniture. Do you mean the house next door? Together they scrambled up onto Sara's thin mattress and craned their heads to see the road outside. Sara could just make out men in shirt sleeves carrying heavy packages and furniture, though she could not see the entrance that they walked through. Still, there was only one house she knew to be vacant, so close. It's taken. It really is taken. Oh, I do hope a nice head will look out the attic window. Wish we could go down and see up close, but Cook would have our backs for idling. Oh, Becky, look, look. Glimpsed for a moment were items that made Sara's heart give a quick beat of recognition. There was a beautiful table of elaborately wrought teak wood, and some chairs, and a screen covered with rich oriental embroidery. They looked so much like the things I used to see when I lived in India with my papa. Do you remember my carved teakwood desk, Becky? Miss Minchin took it away to be sold. Don't know what teakwood, miss, but I know you had a pretty desk. Sometimes it's hard to remember from here what it was like in India. It is like a dream slipping from my fingers. Look now, there are patterned rugs. I thought I might never see such things again. Miss, an idol! The workers now had a Buddha in a splendid shrine. Someone in the family must have been in India. They've got used to Indian things and like having them around. I am glad. I shall feel as if they were friends, even if a head never looks out the attic window. Becky's mind was still caught by the sight of the Buddha. And Eden living next door, kneeling down and praying to golden stone. Reckon somebody ought to send him a tract. You can get a tract for a penny. Sara laughed a little. I don't believe they worship that idol. Some people like to keep them to look at because they are interesting. My papa had a beautiful one and he did not worship it. More romantic if it's a Evans. Don't you think, miss? I never lived next door to no Edens. I should like to see what sort of ways they'd have. People aren't so different, really, when you look at them closely enough. I'm sure we'll find out more about our new neighbors soon. They're only just next door, after all. Okay. We still need a lot of chill, so I guess we gotta run errands. We also need a lot of sorrow. We're not really getting that. Damn, we didn't get anything Wednesday or Friday. Sara was in the classroom with her small pupils. Having finished their lessons, she was now gathering the French exercise books together. Welcome back, Sam. What did you end up eating? As she did so, she thought, as she often did, about the various things that royal personages in disguises had found themselves forced to do. Alfred the Great, for example, had wandered around England like a peasant to hide from the invading Danes, begging for food in exchange for chores. Once he had been promised cakes by a farm wife if he would watch the stove while she herded the cows. But he was distracted thinking about his problems, and the cakes burned, and the farm wife boxed his ears. She had no idea that he was anything but a poor beggar. How frightened she must have been when she learned what she had done. Sara saw Miss Minchin enter the room to check on the progress of the older students. She lowered her gaze and smiled to herself. Imagine if she would find out that I, Sara, with my toes almost sticking out of my worn old shoes, am truly a princess. She did not realize how this expression might look to the older woman, like a sly little smirk. You! All at once, Miss Minchin flew at Sara, pinching her ear and giving it a shake. It was so very like the way that Alfred's ears had been boxed that Sara, startled out of her dreams, could not help but give a little laugh. It was not planned, but simply burst out of her. What are you laughing at, you bold, impudent child? It took Sara a few seconds to control herself sufficiently to remember that she was a princess. I was thinking. Beg my pardon at once? Sara hesitated a second before she replied. I'll beg your pardon for laughing, if it was rude, but I won't beg your pardon for thinking. What were you thinking? How dare you think? That exclamation caused a wave of quiet titters among the older students. Bro, she is low-key going insane, bro, with this laughter. She's losing her marbles. Wait, what was the dinner, man? Why won't you tell us? My dinner was bacon and egg and chocolate cake. That exclamation caused a wave of quiet titters among the older students. Look at Sara, she's not even frightened. She's about to say something queer, I'm sure of it. I was thinking that you did not know what you were doing. That I did not know what I was doing? I was thinking about what would happen if I were a princess, what I should do to you. And I was thinking that if I were one, you would never dare to do it, whatever I said or did. And I was thinking how surprised and frightened you would be if you suddenly found out that I really was a princess and could do anything I liked. Every pair of eyes in the room widened to its full limit. Lavinia leaned forward on her seat to look. Miss Minchin's hand flashed, and Sara's cheek glowed red. Go to your room this instant. Leave this schoolroom. And you, young ladies, attend to your lessons. Sara made a little bow. Excuse me for laughing if it was impolite. And she walked out of the room, leaving Miss Minchin struggling for words. Did you see that? How very odd she looked. Her eyes were glittering like a wild beast. I shouldn't be at all surprised if she did turn out to be something. Suppose she should. That would actually be pretty cool if she ends up being a low-key princess, like they find some of her family members and it turns out she was. Well, this sucks. I can't do an event because I don't have enough chill, apparently. It was Sara, not Becky, who first caught sight of the man who had purchased the house next door. The day was wet with the unpleasant aftermath of the wrong amount of rain, enough to turn dirt to mud and trash to sludge, but not enough to wash the street stones clean. The dinner was so good he forgot, dang. Sara had to be careful to mind her steps or else she might wind up falling into filth. As she picked her way back to the seminary, she saw a carriage pull up and stop before the newly occupied house. One at a time the entourage unfurled, first a footman, then a gentleman whom Sara thought she had seen around London before. Next a nurse in uniform, and then two large manservants coming around to assist their master, not the familiar gentleman, but a man with a haggard, distressed face and a skeletal body wrapped in furs. He was carried up in the steps, and the other gentleman followed behind him, looking anxious. Sara could not safely linger any longer to watch. The last thing she saw before heading back into Miss Minchin's seminary was the arrival of a doctor's carriage. Inside, Becky caught her to share the gossip. Heard the gentleman next door is yellow, miss. Could be a Chinese and not from India? Could he be a Chinese? That's what I'm going to start calling XYZ. XYZ is a Chinese. No, he's not Chinese. He's very ill. I hope it ends better for him than it did for my papa. Oh, miss. Please, I would rather be alone right now. Yes, miss. But I would not rather be alone. I would rather that my papa were here. Or even if I were back in my old rooms and Mariette were there. She picked up Emily and ran a hand over the doll's hair. You are all that I have. She set the doll back on a chair and perched her own thin form on the red footstool, gazing into Emily's glassy eyes. One of Sara's supposings was that Emily might be a kind of good witch who could protect her. That would be cool. You ain't even Chinese? Well, you never told us what you are, so you're gonna have to be a Chinese. One of Sara's supposings. Sometimes, after she had stared at her until she was wrought up to the highest pitch of fancifulness, she would ask her questions and find herself almost believing that Emily might answer. But Emily never did. Well, I don't answer people who speak to me very often either. I never answer when I can help it. When people are insulting you, there's nothing so good as not to say a word, just to look at them and think. Miss Minchin turns pale with rage when I do it, and the girls look frightened. When you will not fly into a passion, people know that you are stronger than they are, and they say stupid things they wish they hadn't said afterward. It's a good thing not to answer your enemies. Perhaps Emily is more like me than I am like myself. Perhaps she would rather not answer her friends either. She keeps it all in her heart. But though she tried to satisfy herself with these arguments, she did not find it easy. Alright, we know that we need chill. And we get chill by running errands. Damn, come on! Give us some triple chill! I don't think we have enough with that, what we just got. We need like fucking 5, I think, or 6. When Sara stumbled up to the attic that night, her slim legs shook with exhaustion. She could not even reach the comfort of the red footstool before her knees gave out. It had been a terrible day. She had been sent out in the cold time, and again, no one choosing to remember she was only a child, that she was not strong and that her small body might be chilled and fragile. Cook's words had been vulgar and insolent. The girls had sneered amongst themselves at Sara's shabbiness. Oh, Emily. Some men laughed at me because my old shoes made me slip down in the mud. I'm covered with mud now, and they laughed. And because I could not find that last thing the cook sent me for, they would not give me any supper. I'm so hungry. Can't you hear me, Emily? I'm hungry, and I'm cold, and I'm tired. Why won't you say something? Say anything. There is nobody but you to care for me. No one in all the world. She looked at the staring glass eyes and complacent face, and suddenly a sort of heartbroken rage seized her. She lifted her little savage hand and with one sweep knocked Emily off the chair. You're nothing but a doll. Nothing but a doll. You care for nothing. You're stuffed with sawdust. You never had a heart. Nothing could ever make you feel. You are a doll. Dude, she is losing it, man. Sara hid her face in her arms and burst into a passion of sobbing. Sara, who almost never cried. Emily lay on the floor, her legs ignominiously doubled up over her head, but her face remained calm, even dignified. Sara's sobs gradually quieted themselves. After a while, she raised her face and looked at Emily, who seemed from this angle to be gazing at her with a kind of glassy-eyed sympathy. Oh, Emily, you can't help being a doll. Not any more than Ermengarde can help being plump, or Lavinia and Jessie can help not having any sense. We're not all made alike. Sara picked up Emily and kissed her, then shook her clothes straight and put her back upon her chair. Perhaps you do your sawdust best. I must do my best as well. Alright, I still can't hang out with freaking Becky because we still need more chill and these stats suck at growing at the pace that I would like. Sara lay in her little bed. The skylight covered her with the gray light of morning, but there was no warmth in it. Hold on, guys. BRB. I'm gonna get some water. Alrighty. What's your favorite Asian food? Mine is oyakodon. I don't know what XYZ's is. Probably just white rice. No warmth either in the unlit fire, and very little to be found in the old blanket. Perhaps I will freeze in place some night lying here, like Snow White in her crystal coffin. But what prince would find me here, alone in the attic, to wake me from my slumber? I do not even have dwarves to tend me. Fairy tale princesses are often rescued by princes, but it is not so much the case for true princesses and queens. Mary, Queen of Scots, had to ride her own horses and raise her own army for her escape. She was very brave, but they caught her again, and in the end she was executed, just like Marie Antoinette. I think it is very noble to be a queen who must carry on, even when she is sad or afraid. More noble than a princess who sleeps and waits to be saved. I have to carry on. That means first I must rise from my bed. Another day of work stretched before her, and no rescue in sight. Alright guys, let's try to get this chill stat. Alright, we got triple. And another triple, so that's good. Ramen. If I had to pick an Asian soup, I would obviously pick miso soup. But second to miso soup, like if I had to pick a noodle one, I would pick nabeyaki udon. Have you guys had nabeyaki udon? First of all, you get the thick udon noodles, right? And then they put chicken in it, they put veggies, and they put a freaking egg in it. And I'm like, holy shit. I don't know, when I first had it, I felt like it was bursting with flavor. I had it maybe like 3 times. It's pretty good. It's better in the winter when it's cold, because then it warms you up nice. I don't know if I would have it during the summer, because it's like already hot as it is, and I'm already dying of the heat. There were fine sunsets even in London sometimes, but most people could see only parts of them between the chimneys and over the roofs. Down in the kitchens, one could not see them at all, and could only guess that they were happening because the bricks looked warmer, the air rosy or yellow for a while. From the bedrooms of the boarding students, the views were only slightly better. Perhaps one might see a blazing glow as it struck a pane of glass on a nearby window. But there was so much more to be seen. Piles of red or gold clouds in the west, or the purple ones edged with dazzling brightness, or the little fleecy floating ones tinged with rose color and looking like flights of pink droves scurrying across the blue in a great hurry if there was a wind. There was one place from which a viewer could see the sunset skies in all their splendor. That place was, of course, the attic window. When the square outside the seminary began to take on that enchanted glow, Sara would, if possible, steal away and creep up the flights of stairs to her attic to lean as far out the window as she could. When she had accomplished this, she had always drew a long breath. In the golden light of sunset, even the London air seemed purer. This wonder is mine alone. It is the one joy of life in this attic, the one beauty that has been granted to me. No one else ever looked out of the other attics. Generally, the skylights were closed, but even if they were propped open to admit air, no one seemed to come near them. Sara turned her face upward to the sky, which seemed so friendly and so near, like a lovely vaulted ceiling, and watched the colors change and flow. Sometimes the clouds made islands or great mountains enclosing lakes of deep turquoise blue, or liquid amber, or chrysoprase green. Sometimes dark headlands jutted into strange lost seas. The sparrows twittered softly around her, and Sara felt for a moment almost as if she could float away into the sky. But in the end, at last, it was necessary to lower her head again. Wait, what was that? For a moment she thought she had seen a shape beyond the attic window in the house that the gentleman from India had taken. Perhaps someone was there. Perhaps the window will open and ahead. But there was no one. Just a trickle of light. Really splendid sunsets always make me feel as if something strange was just going to happen. Perhaps someday it will. Alright, we can now do our next Becky event. Sara sat on her little bed, rubbing her hands together to try and make her fingers warm. It wouldn't be so bad if I had a nice pot of tea or cocoa to make me warm from the inside. Or if there were a fire in the grate, or if I had a fur robe and a thick blanket, if I had anything at all. In the lengthening dark, the empty spaces of the attic pressed mercilessly around Sara. There are no monsters in the dark. Even little Lottie knows that there aren't. I am perfectly safe. I only wish. And then, as if in answer to her thoughts, a hollow knocking echoed through the walls. Becky! She hurried to the wall to signal her companion that it was alright to enter. Moments later, Becky hurried into Sara's room, a blanket wrapped around herself. It's starting to get chilly up here, miss. Come and sit on the bed with me and we can cuddle together. With 2 little girls wrapped under 2 blankets, even thin ones, the attic soon felt much more cozy. I was just thinking that it would be nice in here if I had anything at all to help keep me warm, and now I do. It's too bad that these beds are too narrow, or we could keep here together. Or sleep here together, I think. The TV cuts off some of the text. Well, I could probably change that in the settings. How can I access the settings? Would it be preferences? No, I don't think there's like a setting for full screen or whatever. When I was little, miss, we had to share in beds like these, but I guess I'm not so little anymore. We can both fit snug and nice while we're awake, but if we slept like this, I think one of us would fall off. Do you think it would work if we got both beds and put them next to each other? Oh, I don't know, miss. Them bedsteads are heavy, and I don't know if they'd hold up being moved, and Miss Minchin might not like it. And you like having your own room. You said so. Yes, miss. But you're right. When full winter comes, we might want to. We could put just the mattresses on the floor together. They're easier to shove than the bed frames. Oh, but then the rats would come up onto the bed. Becky shuddered. Sorry, miss, but even if they made us warmer, I don't want a blanket of rats. No, neither do I. Becky leaned her forlorn little head against Sara's shoulder and let out a slow, soft sigh. I'm sorry, miss. Whatever for? I came in to warm up, and I'm not very good company, and air scraped harshly through her nose as she breathed. And I feel like I'll never amount to nothing. Miss Lavinia was right. I don't belong around proper ladies. Lottie is not a proper lady. She's just a little girl. So are you. So am I. And Lavinia is a beast. She's a young lady. She's important to people. I'm not. I'm not worth any more than a handful of half shillings. Yes, you are. Of course you are. It's all just accidents. Tomorrow morning, Lavinia's family could disappear, and she could end up just like me. There's no way to know. Perhaps one Sunday, Miss Minchin will be at church, and suddenly her heart will fill with warmth, and she will come back to the seminary and want to be kind to everyone. That'd need a miracle, miss. Miracles happen. They happen all the time. They have to. Like on the road to Damascus. You remember that story? Don't you, from your Bible classes? Becky nodded. It could happen. She could decide to make you a charity student. With your own bedroom downstairs with the other girls and nice dresses and let you go to classes. Don't laugh. It could. Who would believe? Me, one of them girls downstairs? Even if she stays the same as ever, you don't have to be a scullery maid forever. You could be a parlor maid someday, or cook. Wouldn't you like to be cook in a nice warm kitchen? I bet cook never goes hungry. You see? It could get better. Everything changes. My position certainly did. Sara suddenly felt her fingers squeezed together by Becky's rough grip. You're still princess to me, miss. Always. The corners of Sara's mouth twitched uncontrollably upwards. What would you do, Becky, if a miracle happened? If you could do anything, absolutely anything that you wanted? If I had a wish from one of them lamps, you mean? Something like that, but without having to worry about the magic going wrong or a witch with a curse. And not about your whole life changing, just one thing. If you could do one thing, what would you want? Well, I always wanted to ride in one of them fancy carriages like the royals have, blue as the sky, and covered all over it with gold and jewels, and lamps all around, and a team of white horses to pull it. Oh, that's lovely, just like Cinderella. The carriage would take you to the palace, where you would dance with the prince. Miss, I don't know about that. Don't know how to dance, don't want to. Just to see it all, that'd be enough for me, I'm sure. You will see it, and much more someday, I'm sure. The magic will make it happen. Sara stood, looking out at the sunset. There were floods of molten gold covering the west as if a glorious tide was sweeping over the world. A deep, rich yellow light filled the air. The birds flying across the tops of the houses showed quite black against it. Sara sighed to herself as she craned her head upwards. All of a sudden she heard a strange sound. Not a sparrow's chirp, but a strange little squeaky chattering, and it came from the window of the next attic. Sara turned excited. Had someone come at last to watch the sunset as she did? There was a head visible, framed there in the skylight, but it was not the head of a little girl or a tired housemaid. In fact, it was the tufted head of a small black-faced monkey. Oh! For Sara, it was like catching a glimpse of a long-lost friend passing nearby in a crowd. When she had lived with her papa in India, she had played with just such creatures. She had not thought to see them again. She swung the skylight up, leaning out as far as she dared to get a better look. You darling thing, how I wish you could come for a visit. As if in answer, the monkey rapped its paw 3 times against the window surface. Then all at once, it hopped down into its own room, away from the skylight and out of Sara's view. Sara waited, hoping that he might return, if only for a moment. Did Azure come in stream? XYZ asks. She did earlier, at the start of stream. You didn't see her? I think that I hear him, still chattering away. Perhaps he is swinging from shelf to shelf within their attic, as if it were a jungle. No, I do hear something. A voice was speaking in a low tone, not a monkey, but a man. And then, to her surprise, someone appeared in the attic window, someone with dark skin and brightly embroidered clothing. A Lascar! He held the monkey in his arms, where it smuggled and chirped against his breast. As Sara looked toward him, he looked toward her. Hello. Sara had learned for herself how comfortable a smile, even from a stranger, might be. Hers was evidently a pleasure to him. He smiled in return, and his whole face was illuminated. Hello, Miss Sahib. Sahib? What's a Sahib? He must have come up here for the sun, since it's so seldom seen in England. So, you're what Sharan wished for me to see. The monkey brought you here? What a delightful thought, that an Indian monkey should bring an Indian man to be my friend. This little one brings me many places. He is forever running into trouble and expecting his tall friends to protect him. The familiar cadences of his accent washed over Sara like a summer rain. How long it had been since she had heard such a voice. Forgive me, Miss Sahib. I would open the window to greet you properly, but I fear Sharan might try to make an escape. I would not wish to lose him. My friend, my master, is ill, and this creature's mischief provides him so much amusement. To Sharan, too, Sharan does not know England or its weather. He might come to harm. Of course, perhaps we will meet again, on another sunset. The sound of his quiet laughter did not pass through the closed window, but the flashing white of his teeth showed his amusement. Until another sunset, Miss Sahib. He disappeared then. She thought it possible that he might have bowed to her, but it was too difficult to tell through a skylight. I wonder if he lives in an attic like me, or if he was only chasing the monkey. I do not know his rank in that household. I hope that England is kinder to him than it was to me. He seemed like a chill dude. She needs to stay in stream. She be telling me she's such a big Nico Kirby fan, but she ain't even stay. Bro, that's what I'm always saying, man. And Sam agrees with us. False hope. Alright, I need some chill. I need some pride, maybe. What's pride again? The crossy thing, right? So, do you hear about the fellow next door? Seems he's not an Oriental or an Indian at all. That's what Sara said. Luckily for Becky, Cook was not in enough of a temper to clout her for calling Sara miss in her hearing. Suppose she'd know all about England gentlemen living in that place. I tell you, you'd never get me there. Not if I had to jump off a boat and swim home. Nothing good ever come from India. It's all tigers and cobras and midges that suck the blood right out of you or spit back poison. It's a wonder the children live long enough to be shipped back here. If only Papa had let me stay there. Anyhow, seems that fellow had gone on and run himself in a hole. Thought he'd lost his whole fortune, he did. And it drove him to wreck, thinking he was ruined forever. He weren't, of course, still rich as anything. Thought it'd do no good if he died of fret. Trouble is all about mines, and mines with diamonds in them. Yo, you guys hearing this? Maybe the guy across the street is actually Sara's dad. Maybe he's still alive. It's either Sara's dad or maybe it's the friend of the dad. I don't know who it is, but I'm pretty sure they bear a relation to her. I'm pretty sure it's her dad. I think her dad's still alive. Because Sara was saying like, oh, they have this thing and that thing. And she made it sound like it's all the stuff that she had in her house. So I'm thinking that her dad moved out here to be with her. But he's too sick to like actually say hello. I don't know, it'd be cool if it's him. No savings of mine never goes into no mines, particular diamond ones. We all know something of them. Becky gulped and nodded. He felt as my papa felt. He was ill just like my papa, but he did not die, not yet. Poor man, I hope he will be well. Perhaps he has a child in England as well. For the sake of that child, I would help him any way I could. Or for his own sake and the sake of my papa, whom I could not save. Either that, or it could be the dad, or it could be the dad's friend carrying out the dad's will. Like maybe the dad as he was dying was like, "Yo, go look out for my daughter." It could be the dad's friend then, XYZ. He's probably like, "Yo, take care of my daughter in my place." Sara lay across her bed, feeling too weak and sore even to lift her head. Why did Cook make us fill that basin up in the kitchen when she knew we couldn't lift it high enough to pour it out again? It would have been easier to take it to a pump. Her arms ached, her back ached, her head ached. The pain took precedence over every other sensation, even the cold. I wish Becky were here, but I can't get up to knock now. And so, when the doorknob rattled and turned, Sarah's first reaction was pleasure and relief. I was short-lived. Miss Minchin? She never comes up here. Do not move. Is something wrong? I said do not move. I won't have you hiding the evidence. Evidence of what? Theft. Miss Herbert has reported that certain valuable items have gone missing, and you're the most logical suspects. Lavinia? Miss, what's going... Oh. No sooner had Becky stepped into the doorway than Miss Minchin grabbed her arm and yanked her inside. Get over there with her where I can see you. Neither of you is to move until this room has been searched. If I have to strip you, I will. Now move. Yes, Mum. She hurried to Sarah's side, not even daring to whisper a question about what was going on. I've never stolen anything, and Becky wouldn't either. I know she wouldn't. This is just Lavinia trying to make trouble. It's cruel. There was not much to search in the garret. An old trunk in the corner was picked through, then pushed aside when it proved to hold little more than napkins and rubbish. The table, the grate, the footstool, none of them provided many places for stolen treasures to hide. As for the bed, aha! She produced a battered tin which clanked and rattled as she lifted it. Oh no, Becky's half shillings! Here we see the proof of these accusations. I'm absolutely shocked at this behavior, Sara Crew. Here I have given you a roof over your head and meaningful employment, and this is how you repay me? I'm not a thief. Them's my wages, Mum. So, you would steal even from a fellow servant. I didn't steal anything. Please, Mum, I gave them to her. Miss Minchin scowled. The truth of the matter had to be apparent even to her, with the two girls so close. However, to admit it would mean admitting that she had been wrong. A gift? That seems unlikely. Why would a little drudge who had next to nothing give it away? Perhaps you are afraid to tell me the truth. No, Mum. Let me make things clear to you, girl. That one, she indicated Sara, who furrowed her brow and refused to shrink back, has no possessions other than what I have generously loaned to her. She has no right to any possessions. She is in my debt deeply and undoubtedly. If she stole this money from you, then she will be turned over to the authorities for punishment, and the coins will be returned to you. If you gave her this money, then it belongs to me as payment towards her debts, and I will confiscate it at once. That's not fair. What should I do? I can't say that I stole the money. I wouldn't steal, and I won't lie. But if I don't, then Miss Minchin will take Becky's savings away. She didn't give it to me. I was keeping it safe for her. The money belongs to Becky. Do not speak unless you are spoken to. I'm not interested in excuses. There are only two possible outcomes here. Now make up your mind. What is the truth? Was it a gift or was it stolen? It is entirely your decision. Becky shot a fearful glance at Sara. Look at me when I'm speaking to you. You don't need her help to tell me the truth. Make your choice. It's a gift. Very well, then I thank you for your generosity. Before both their eyes, she tipped out the contents of the tin. The coins are few and not even shiny. A moment later, they disappeared into Miss Minchin's pockets. What would the church say to you if they knew what you had done? Don't speak impertinent nonsense. You are not above punishment. Remain here while I search the other room. After all, there are still reports of theft I must investigate. The sound of her heels clacked away into the distance. How old is Miss Minchin? I don't know. She kinda has gray hair, but her face looks kinda young. Might be in her like 40s, maybe. Late 40s, I would say. Oh, Becky, your savings. It weren't nothing, miss. It was only a few coin, nothing important. But it was all the treasure that you had. It is like the Bible story of the widow's two mites. A small theft is a very great one if you have so little to begin with. Becky wiped out her face. I couldn't let her take you away, miss. I can't live here without you. I can't. Oh, Becky, you are my treasure. Even after Miss Minchin had finished her inspection and departed, the two little prisoners huddled together. They had nothing else. Alright, guys. This is where I'm going to save and end stream for today. I need to go finish Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on the PS5. I will stream this again either next week or maybe in 2 weeks, because we also have to continue the Galgun Guardians. So we'll figure it out. But I will continue streaming this soon. I know we're all enjoying it. I look forward to watching the Yuri unfold. Just stream that then? Nah, I can't stream it because it's PS5. And remember what happened last time I streamed PS5? You guys couldn't hear me. So I will not be streaming it. But alright guys, until next time, thank you Click XYZ and Sam for hanging out. Thank you for everyone else like Eric and Azure who stopped in and said hello, and Bloody Master. Until next time, amigos.